Mine going.
This is posted with Revolution News and Information. This is Monday night, the disclaimers with Dave and Ed Johnston. It is 4/24/2017. I'm going to pass the floor right on over to Dave. This is a really sensitive show. Go ahead.
Well, I think Ed had an introduction that he wanted to do first before we got into our guest speaker tonight. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ed. And then we'll get into some things that happened today, and then we'll get into our guest speaker. Go ahead, Ed.
So anyhow, I'd like to introduce the gentleman's name is Michael Gill. He is part of the state of corruption of New Hampshire. This is the one thing that we're all dealing with in the 48 states. Remember, folks, we are not 50 states. Alaska and Hawaii are under administrative rules. They are not part of the United States of 48 states under the 1871 Civil War contracts. And this is the one thing that people don't realize, how much that really does have effect on our country and our public servants and the whole circumstances. The one thing is we are very grateful to have Mike with us tonight. This is an educational show, so this way you folks can also, too, learn how to do your own paperwork, learn how to file, and that is the main point, is learning how to file properly compared to the confusion that a lot of people get out there, because there's a lot of people out there that claim they know what they're doing. The one thing that Dave and I do, we don't claim anything. We are not attorneys. We're not lawyers. We claim nothing. We're just guys that have researched, educated ourselves, written instruments that have been presented to the House, Senate, and Congress, have been accepted, and we have seen some administrative changes through it, but it's a slow process when it should be a lot faster than what's going on. But that takes you, the people. If you love and care for your children, quit lying to them. Stand up and be a man or a woman. Quit confusing the issues. You know, you can't have one without the other. Either you're a man or a woman and you have rights or you have privileges. The one thing about our court systems, most people do not comprehend that there are a structure of rights and privileges in the court system. You have to know if you're lawful or legal when you go into court. And that's where a lot of people get in trouble, because they don't know the structure of technically the British court system. When they fly that flag in that court system with the gold fringe, that is a maritime British flag of martial law. That is not a we the people. That is the British government flag. And that's where people have to realize what the court system is compared to what we think it is, or the knowledge that we think we have compared to what we don't have, and it takes proper education. And that means working with each other, educating each other, and not being confused by the issues, but working on them so it protects the bloodline. You have to protect your bloodline. If you're lawful or legal, you have to know the difference. If you don't know if you're lawful or legal, you know, me and Dave do have some knowledge there. We can give you that. We do have instruments that we've even written for Judge Scalia going back before he was assassinated or murdered, whatever way you want to call it. You know, we do know that's a fact. We do know that we've dealt with this. We do know we have lived this structure. And so we just want to make sure that people get educated in the proper manner of how to deal with your public employees. Remember, we the people are the number one branch of government. We have elected and public servants. Quit calling them government, because the lawful bloodline Americans are the government of this country. And until you start accepting that you are not the slave and you are not to bow your head to your public servants, and that's even by law. People don't read the law. You know, it's like taxes. The Fifth Amendment says if you file taxes, you're violating your own rights. You're committing treason by filing it, because you're, what is that? Fraud upon the court. And I'll let Dave get into that in a minute. But we are very excited to have our guest with us tonight. It is all about proper education. And so that's the one thing that you realize, that it is education. When you go into these courts, you have to know what you're going into these courts for. You have to know what court you're going into. You have to comprehend what they are actually doing in the court system at the time you go into the court. You have to know what court you're going into, too. What flag they're flying, what's the top of the flag pole, what's on it, an eagle, a spear, a ball, because that changes the jurisdiction. And they don't tell you this. This is why you have to clarify your jurisdiction when you go into these courts. anyhow, we do have Tax Fraud in America is one of our Facebook sites. We do have the United States for America Republic, Elected and Public Servants Oversights. We do have the Civil War of 1866 Lawful Bloodline, and we do have new.organtrackers.com. And so that is the point that you have to realize that, and we do have the website, new.organtrackers.com. That is a website, and that has lawful information. We are not attorneys. We are not lawyers, because under the 1957 Congressional Act, there's no such thing as an attorney or lawyer in this country. Anybody can practice law by the Supreme Court, and that is the law, even by the House and Senate Administrative Rules. So with that, I'm very anxious to hear our guest. He's got a lot of knowledge. After Dave's introduction, we're actually going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to let him open up and go with it, because he's got his knowledge. He knows what he's done. He knows what he's successfully done. And then we'll do a Q&A answer phase in about, 45 minutes or an hour, when he gets to the point where he wants to take a break, or we'll go back and forth. So we'll figure that out. And so now I'd like to turn the floor over to my co-host. Dave, it's yours.
Thank you, Ed. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our talk show. As Ed said, we're not lawyers, attorneys, but we are rather much educated anymore in the con job that's being put before us by our public and elected officials. I should say gangsters.
Servants.
What they are. Today I wrote a document to our dearly beloved president, and I explained to him a fact of life, that this republic, anything written for it has to be constitutional. The fact that our courts must be constitutional courts. They must have constitutional judges, and any judge who allows any other law in his court is committing treason, not only against his oath of office, but he's committing treason against the Constitution. For example, the American Bar Association and the BAR, which is the British Accreditation Registry, fraud by trickery, are forcing us all into foreign courts by the British law they are performing in court that they don't tell us about. So, therefore, we have treason against the American Bar, and we have treason against the British Accreditation Registry. And I wanted people to comprehend what I'm saying here. The Republic, the Union States, are republics, not democracies. If you want a democracy, you go hop on board the ship and you go back to England. Because if you want to practice British law, then you go to England to do it. So with that in mind, I'll get into some other things later on birth certificates and that, but I want to give our guest plenty of time to say what's on his mind. And so with that, I will shut up, and I'll just yield to you, sir.
Thank you. You know what I thought I'd do? I'd just give you a brief synopsis of how this started. What I did was, again, I owned the largest mortgage company in the United States. And what I did was I detected a Ponzi scheme in the state. It was called FRM. And I caught this Ponzi scheme, reported it to the U.S. attorney, and he gave me a target letter. And I'm saying, so what I came to realize is everything that I started exploring, like the Banking Commission. Turns out the Banking Commission was helping laundering the drug money from lack of auditing, credit unions, certain banks. And then I turned around and went to these law firms. For instance, the AG's office, Attorney General's office. You know what I discovered? There's hit judges. And the judges come out of the Attorney General's office, who's been covering up departments and corruption within the state. My state has literally been bought by drugs. New Hampshire is considered ground zero by the DEA. A gentleman, the head of the DEA, Ferguson. Okay, so now Ferguson, the head of the DEA, turns around and comes to my state and declares this big drug bust of all this fentanyl. Except where it was a cover-up, I gave it to the DEA 2 weeks before. It was coming from the hospitals. You see what I'm saying? These same drug dealers bought and owned the hospitals. They are protected by the AG's attorneys. These selective law firms, one of which is owned by Gene Shaheen and Bill Shaheen, very close and tight with the Clintons. In fact, Bill Shaheen was their campaign manager at one time. That is who was protecting them. They offered me $50 million for my silence. And we don't have to guess about it because I put it on the internet. The video is called The List. And Liberty, as the parent company of Liberty Mutual, was going to offer me $50 million, but for my silence. And the silence is on this incrimination. We talk about the IRS you were talking about. That's their leverage tool. Gene Shaheen's been accused of this 3 different times. Now, you know what I have? I find it hard to believe that anybody's got more credible evidence on the IRS corruption than myself, because they're using this. You ready? Not only have I not filed my tax return since 11, when they had forged my tax return for my silence, that I've been giving this information criminally to the TITCA, that is the criminal division of the IRS. To only find that this guy, Tom Morley, had set up a mole in my company. And guess what? Tom Morley and I have a conversation from TITCA. He forgets to hang up the phone. I record a message. You know who he talks to? He talks to the Adjutant General, Tim Campus of the IRS. Tim Campus says he has a mole in my company. Okay? Now, this Tom Morley has an accountant named Curtis Morley, his cousin. All the information gets diverted and sent it to me from the IRS to his cousin, Curtis Morley. This is a IRS cover-up at the very peak of the IRS. No question, I have them recorded. Now think about this with the DEA. When I said the hospitals, I gave that information to the DEA. They then went to protect the drug dealers by having a evidence dump. And the head of the DEA, Ferguson, is covering for them, saying, hey, this is the biggest drug bust. Yet, they didn't even say who it came from or how much. I am telling you, I have found that the DEA in this country is protecting the drug dealers. Think about this. I've detected these drug dealers. A guy named Aganos, Cruz, and Griner. They own a chain of auto stores called Auto Fair, one of the biggest in the country. That is the laundering. They do the finance. They use these big truck transportation vehicles to move the drugs. I've got the couriers. The United States Attorney didn't even want the courier's name. And when I tell you they tried to kill me 3 times, I put up all the medical records. But there was a 4th time when the guy said no. And he called me, and I have that on a recording. The recording on the video is called Kill Gil, like Kill Bill. Same thing. And he explains how he is supposed to kill me as soon as I get out of jail for contempt. And he goes on and tells me it's the drug dealers. See, so I'm literally in hiding. I went through my whole state. The U.S. Attorney didn't even want the courier's name. The governor became the governor of New Hampshire by leveraging the banking commission on the drug dealers. Sununu, remember his father was connected with Bush Sr. as an advisor. This is the political push. I'm in D.C. here now talking to the DEA, and they know. They know. But who are you going to report it to? That's our problem. I understand about laws and so forth, but these judges are corrupt. They don't care. There is no one to report these crimes to. And listen, I was not a conspiracy theorist. I was a father of 5. I was running the biggest racing stable in the world. Listen, and I did all this with insight. But I couldn't turn my back until what I kept seeing over and over again, even in family courts. They're selling our kids. DCYF. I called the DCYF. They turned over 1,500 cases in 48 hours and resigned. I've had 2 U.S. attorneys resign. I mean, and Donald Trump, I've been feeding him information for 2 years. How many times have you heard Donald Trump on television, on debates, even the debate with Clinton go, New Hampshire has the worst drug problem? Why do you think he kept picking New Hampshire? It's because I backed him up with the information. He even said in the Virginia debate, he goes like this. He says, New Hampshire is being protected. The drug dealers are being protected by politicians. He's right, and I did give that to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like we're paying politics now, because it does. Do you remember Senator Ayotte? Senator Ayotte was the AG prior. She was the queen of the cover. I got her not elected. But the thing was, is the people who were working with me got sued for $20 million, Aaron Day, who ran for senator, and they threatened to murder him. He was in the room when the guy came in to shoot us both, and we had a third person come in, and the guy ran out. I had a gun right to my face. I had a 6'7" Russian nationalist on video and had me wrestling him in the hallway in Miami at the Ritz-Carlton. It's a miracle I'm still here, which is why I'm in some hotel someplace outside of Washington on a burner phone. And I've only made about $500 million. This shouldn't have been my life, but I can't walk away knowing what they're doing. I mean, we are selling our children's future. Just sold them all out. And the thing that gets me, it's the cowardism. I just can't. I mean, you were saying we the people. It is we the people. So where the hell are we? I mean, what are we waiting for? I mean, this is the worst drug epidemic? Think about this. We've had 8 to 9 years of recession. Can you tell me what business didn't have receded? It's the drug business. They took advantage of the situation and now build an empire. The guy, Aganos, who runs this in New Hampshire, I have 5 state troopers in each decade that arrested this guy. This guy was bigger than Whitey Bulger in the 70s. You know what? Unchecked, he built an empire. He owns senators. I'm in court right now, and I got to go Friday, with a guy who tried to kill me 3 times who was my lawyer who offered me $50 million. Shaheen and Gordon, who are my attorneys, who are representing the drug dealers, that they offered me $50 million. I mean, this is insanity. If you told people this, they wouldn't believe you, which is why I documented everything. I've got the hitman on the audio. And the guy only went to federal prison for 9 years for biting a guy's nose off and cutting his ears off. He only works with a guy named Donacio, who's only the head of organized crime in New England. And the DEA knows it and is aware of it. So it's like, what do we do? Where do we go? I'm telling you, I'm going out to the people. But if the people don't stand up, then I can't tell you we have a future. Not the one we want to be in.
That one we agree with you on that one. Because I know about the drug trade and the drug industry. And I know the were the biggest push in the 80s on it.
Well, how about this? It's called hiding in plain sight. These guys invested not in skyscrapers like in Miami. They bought politicians. They bought law firms. They bought the hospitals. How about this? The drug dealers of my state own the treatment centers. And their politicians pass Medicaid expansion. So not only do they get them addicted, the ones that don't die and go to jail, they get to go to their treatment center, which they passed a law. In fact, the guy I'm going to court with Friday was the attorney who passed the law. See? Walker. I mean, it was complete manipulation. They put me in jail for 10 days for contempt. You know why? Because I insisted on the judge to take 2 threatening notes, one of which threatened to cut my 5 children's heads off and mail them back to me one at a time. And he was only my attorney. How's that? And they did nothing. Then they give me 10 days in jail. You know what I find out 10 days in jail? The whole place is on heroin. I'm telling you, I think there's more drugs in jail than outside of jail. And think about this. A good percentage of those people in jail, you get your predators, you get your rapists, and you can see who they are. Young kids, children, 19, 20 years old, sports industry, and all of a sudden they're on oxycodone, they're on heroin. The next thing they know, they're 3 to 5 years, and now they really got a drug problem because they're shoving it down their throats. And you know what they do? Then they have their parents. They collect from the parents, and if you don't pay, they beat the hell out of your kid who's locked in jail. I mean, somewhere we've lost our souls here. So I've spent quite literally 20, 30 million on Facebook and YouTube promoting these videos. I've done over 400 videos. A number of my videos have over 2 million views. And I understand that there's a climate, I feel, that's changing. But they got to still find the courage. It's not enough to recognize we have corruption. At least it was something that, at least we're beyond where we were before when we didn't. But we've got to take some kind of action here. I look these guys in the face. When a U.S. attorney turns him around, a guy named Farley, and doesn't want the courier's name, who has been opening up trunks full of heroin and cash back and forth to New York, doesn't want to know the name. I mean, what does that tell us? That's the guy who makes the cases for the FBI. And if you look at some of the videos I have, you can see me knocking on the door with the FBI. They were petrified of the evidence, not because it's not true, but because it is. For instance, who offers you $50 million for being wrong? And when I'm telling you, I put it out there, the offer and all the releases. How is it the IRS wants to release? Department of Revenue wants to release. I mean, the Banking Commission wants to release. How is those things even possible? And that's what they're doing now. On Friday, they're going to try to attach all assets with the guy who's trying to murder me. He was my associates, my vice president, my paralegals, were giving them my locations. When we finally caught them, we only had 10,000 text messages to the killers here in the last 6 months. Hard evidence. So it's like, what do we do with that? And I'm here in Washington. I just went to that DEA agent. He knew exactly who I was. I went into the IRS. They said, hello, Mike, in Washington. They know I have Tim Campus. They know I have this guy O'Malley, who's the head of the IRS in the New England area. I had them all on the phone. And you know something? I recorded their phone call. So why didn't they put me in jail? That's illegal wiretapping. Because you're going to find out what's on the wire. See? So, I mean, I'm asking people, and we've got to do this together. That's why I'm putting things on this website, so that we can, you know, it's we the people. I'm asking the people to call the DEA in Washington. I posted the telephone number, and say, call them and tell them to investigate. But somewhere down the line, Trump bailed out on us. And I supported Trump. I had him on my signs, the whole thing, was feeding him that information. And then we started playing politics. Hello?
Yeah, no, we're here. We're listening to you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No.
You know what? I keep going sometimes.
No, Mike, I know what you're talking about politics because I grew up in elected and public employees unions. Okay? So
I ran for governor last year. And you know what they did? They tossed my ballot. That's what they did. And I only videotaped myself voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad. And I posted all that. When I went to the Secretary of State's office, he even refused to give me his name. That's how bad this is.
Out.
Hello?
Yeah, no, we're still here.
Okay.
Go.
All right. So where we are now is that I'm looking for a judicial watch. I've got right now, see, this is the thing with the judges, the people don't understand. They train these courts. They take them out of the AG's office. And when I'm telling you, this isn't just New Hampshire. This is everywhere. So if you turn around, I've got an assistant AG. His name is Richard Head, believe it or not. And trust me, he's earned that moniker. But he'll give states evidence. He's now in California hiding. He'll tell you what they do is they create hit judges. You're going to have the judges do the normal stuff, but then you're going to have these hit judges that come out of the AG's office. We have multiple in my state. That's where they bounce you around. They protect state agencies. You go after the banking department, you go after the DRA, you go after DCYF, you get them. And guess what? If they take you to court, they were in front of the generation before them out of the same AG's office. The whole game is rigged. And if you look, and then for any kind of appeals, for instance, I've been appealing everything. I get the same judge, one signature that denies the appeal. Her name is Conboy. She only works for the two law firms that we were suing. I mean, it's a conflict that you can't even ignore. But they turn around and block all avenues. And then what happens is business, like insurers. Insurers start playing the game too. Because they're saying, hey, you know what? I don't have to pay this. Liberty Mutual, for instance. I don't know if you've heard this term. Made Whole Act. Meaning if you get in a car accident and say you have $5,000 in damage. But the thing here is that your car is worth considerably less. The Made Whole Act means that spread, they've got to pay you immediately on that, so you don't have a loss. The whole state of New Hampshire is not being paid that back. The vice president of Liberty Mutual told me this was fraud because he had to be deposed in Montana for the same thing. If he went ahead, they would have thrown him in jail. Instead, they fired him. So, in other words, the whole insurance thing is fraudulent. They're the ones who offered me $50 million for my silence because I would have outed them too. And that's what the law firms that turn these judges and they go from the AG's office. For instance, one law firm is 80% of all the assistant AGs. It's called McLean Law Firm, the same one that Ayotte came out of, and then she became the senator. You know how dangerous this is? You can't find anybody more corrupt. She was in consideration to be your AG of United States. Mm-hmm. Think about that. This is how far this reaches. And I'm afraid, because I was dealing with Trump's people. I was dealing with his campaign manager, Corey, and they were on this. This is what they were saying, draining the swamp, the heroin epidemic. Think about this, too. We've all heard of El Chapo, right? Guess what? El Chapo's trying to get moved to, the town? There's 13,384 cities and towns in the United States. You know where they're trying to prosecute El Chapo? In Bedford, New Hampshire. The same place with the crooked DEA, the same place where the drug dealers live. They're trying to move him here. And it doesn't seem that ridiculous considering his cousin, Guzman there, got prosecuted in New Hampshire last year. So how is the two key factors of the Sonora cartel being brought to be prosecuted into the state of New Hampshire? Because they own the courts. El Chapo's going to turn them in. I got that from Trump's people, too. when he was in federal jail in New York, testifying on these people. That's part of who they're doing business. And these hospitals, think about this. 80% of addiction start by prescription. These doctors don't know. I mean, what, you sprain your ankle and create an addict? That's what happens. And we just think that they didn't do it on purpose. All these, for instance, Walker, that I'm in a lawsuit with on Friday, he's the head attorney for Catholic Memorial Hospital. The U.S. attorney who sent me a target letter, well, he then quit his job, and he becomes at Dartmouth Hospital the lawyer. See, they use their best people to protect the doors. They're sentinels. That's what happened. I am telling you, it's hiding in plain sight. And that's why that fentanyl dump, you'll see a video called Full of It. Look at that video. Consider this. How do you get a tractor trailer, full length, top to bottom packed of fentanyl? Fentanyl by weight, 1.2 pounds equals approximately $1 million. Could there be $1 billion in that trailer? No, I got a picture of a video of it, and I bet the head of the DEA, dancing on it. Where'd it come from? Where do you take $1 billion of fentanyl? And if you're really looking at what's killing people, it's more the fentanyl than it's the heroin. It's a synthetic form of heroin that's 10 times stronger. That's what's killing people. And listen, we manufacture it. You see those boxes? Those boxes have serial numbers on it. We can investigate who bought them and who sold them. So why haven't we? And the people inside of Bedford, the town manager of Bedford prior, was murdered. The pain management doctor in the Elliott Hospital was murdered. There was a Russian gun dealer, had a gun shop in Bedford, the same town. They were all murdered, all his family too. Now, Bedford is the highest valuation city or town in New Hampshire. And we had the town manager and doctors and all murdered within a year of one another. And that's what's happening. I had to deal with a Russian. Don't think that Russian people aren't involved in this too. And where you have, I turned over the evidence of one of the drug dealers, and he only went on, his name was Gingras. He only went on to rob 2 banks and shoot a guy in Pennsylvania, 2 in the head. And they let him go. You know why? Because he was delivering drugs. Mm-hmm. Right, and everything I'm saying is documented. You can see that I did this. What I did was win, lose, or draw with these videos. I'm leaving a footprint. I'm telling you what's going to happen, not just what's going to happen. When I was in horse racing, I said the mob was running horse racing. Everybody thought that was funny. I was on the East 60, most hated man in racing. Guess what? If you read the papers in the last couple months, they're arresting them all. And they were bringing in illegals that way from the racetracks. Half the racetracks are illegals in the backside. And you know what you do? For instance, if you go to Penn National for $1,500, you give Nubia Bombardier, who's the identifier, she gives you a state license. And when I told them what they were doing, they only caught 3 murderers, and one of them was a serial killer. And when I turned around and told them they were moving heroin for hay trucks, they laughed until they stopped them. And then they had the largest cocaine bust they ever had in the state of Pennsylvania. But see, even the feds then were covering up the truth because some of this money was being paid to politicians. Remember the governor there, ex-governor Randall? He was waist deep with all of them. He's the one that got slot machines in Pennsylvania. So really what I'm telling you is this drug money, this corruption money, has got into the politics of this country, the politicians. For instance, like in New Hampshire, and why do presidents, why do these not go after them? You know why? Because they sell their soul first. Because if you're going to go in, for instance, the state of New Hampshire, the first thing you go is to the power brokers. Who's the power broker? generally the most corrupt. And that's how it happens. So then all of a sudden they owe them. And then they protect them. So I'm telling you, I'm in a bad place now. And I've been doing it for years. But I'm in a bad place because it's the level of the desperation. And it's also an opportunity that we have. The level of their desperation is the level of our opportunity. If we could only find our courage now. Now, I just posted a video today right from Washington, and I said, I need help. And I told him what happened with the DEA. The DEA agent that I spoke to, he wanted to know where I was in Washington. You see? It was more about where I was than taking the information. They knew the information. He was telling me about the videos that he was watching. You know, I don't know if they do this intentionally, but what they do is they give you this smiling look. They give you a look like they couldn't be bothered. Now, I'm hoping that ain't real, and I'm hoping they're crying inside, but I am telling you, there's a confidence that they have that's unnerving, and when I'm in Washington and I see this, then I start to understand that maybe it's more confidence because they know the steps above them are also corrupt. So I'm going to ask all your viewers to turn around, go on to stateofcorruption.org. I want them to turn around and comment. I gave them a number for the DEA. President Trump asked them to look at this information, particularly Trump. And I'm trying to reach out now to Trey Gowdy. I mean, how do you guys feel about Trey Gowdy?
Well, he's very interesting. I've reached out to him. I noticed that some of the things I've sent him, he's responded to it publicly. And so that's where I've been with it, but I haven't seen anything else. I've seen some of it being responded, and I'm waiting for him to actually do the indictment on Hillary because that's what he said he was going to be doing.
But there's politics again. That's never going to happen.
You know. I know. Dave, what do you think on that issue?
Right.
I've confronted Trump about him not answering or responding to any of my mailings, emails, faxes, whatever. So I haven't had much luck with him.
I haven't had much luck with any of them, except for Trump early on when he was running for the election. When's the last time you heard him say "drain the swamp"? Mm-hmm. I haven't heard
him every day in something.
Yeah, well, I'm standing neck deep in the swamp, and I'm telling you, I got them all picked up. I've got the evidence on them. I mean, think about this. Bill Shaheen used to work for me. Alex Walker used to work for me. Half the AG's office used to work for me. I had the largest mortgage company. I know who these people are.
Right.
I know how it works.
Yeah, you're like Ed. You were in the system. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what? I was in the system because I was wealthy. You. How about this? You don't join the system. They loop you in.
That's a fact.
Oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden, listen, they put the IRS on me, the whole thing. And yet they want to release too. Can you imagine this? With all these people going issues with the IRS. I hope they understand. I got Tim Campus, the Adjutant General, saying he's got a mole.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And that same mole was giving my locations to the drug dealers on 3 different occasions to try to murder me.
Mm-hmm.
And if a guy didn't walk in, they had a gun right to my face. And one of the people I was doing a video for walked into the office or I wouldn't be talking here. That was just faith. And the guy breaking into the room, I had my head to me and said I knew that if I could I'm 6'4", 270. I backed him up into the hallway, and the security cameras picked him. And what I'm telling you, the police were there, and they have it on video. This guy tried to break in and murder me because I was dropping off evidence to the National Mortgage Association about the banking department. I didn't realize at that time that the banking department was protecting the drug See, the thing with when you're making billions on drugs, you know what their biggest problem is? Where to put the money.
Yep.
That's the problem. Do you know how many banks opened up since 2007? 2 in the United States. And they're drug banks. And they're in New Hampshire. And the banking commissioner, now, who is a state senator, wrote a bill. And you know what the bill was? That you don't have to audit credit unions or banks any longer. And then he became the banking commissioner. His name is Jerry Little. I call it Little Corrupt. And that's what he did. And he protects the drug dealers. All you've got to do is audit the banking department with those banks. They have billions unaccounted for. I traced the wires. I know where the billions are going. It's a Russian bank.
And
that's what makes this
back into elections.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Goes right back into elections, so that way they can write it off through their nonprofits.
There's more involvement than we know.
Oh yeah.
There's partnerships in here that I'm even thinking Trump knows. For instance, the DEA, for him to go there and protect the hospitals. This is a guy who's the head of the DEA who came out of retirement to make that announcement. How's that for a dog and pony show?
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I'm the one, if you look at the video where you see me give the evidence to the DEA, you know how I had to put the evidence to the DEA on video? I refused to go in the building after the third time, had all the evidence, and wouldn't leave the parking lot. So finally the DEA agent come in, I dropped it right on his lap as he was asking us to shut the camera off. So now that I had the camera on him, getting the evidence, within 2 weeks they had the biggest drug bust in the history of New England. You know, all the shit I gave them. And I'm telling you this, you ready? If there's $1 billion worth of drugs in that tractor trailer, where did it go? Some tells me it's going to go right back into circulation. It ain't like these guys that throw $1 million away.
Mm-hmm.
So all we got was a picture and a little how do you do. And the truth being is they'll feed that right back in. Think about this, New Hampshire. Why New Hampshire? We have they call it the ground zero of drugs in the United States. Do you know why? I mean, think about this. What would be a reasonable explanation? Because I thought of one. There's only one. You ready? We got a friendly government to the drug dealers. We got law enforcement protecting them. We got judges protecting them. We got the top law firms protecting them. They invested their money. They didn't do it they didn't change the skyline like Miami did. They were much more practical, which is why they've lasted so long. They bought judges, politicians, hospital treatment centers. So, I mean, we've got to somehow inspire people. I mean, they don't have to understand the law. I'm not a lawyer either. I find myself as a radio host. I have to be my own lawyer. You know who I have to fight against? The New England Bar Association president, Hilliard, the past president in Walker, and Bill Shaheen, who was the New England Bar Association and married to the senator. This is who I've got to go, and I'm not a lawyer. And every paralegal that I ever had, if you go over the videos, we're working for them. Think about this. You ready? As impossible as that to seem, who do you know would risk your life to help you? Now, you may think that there's a few people off the top of your head. As I did, put yourself in that situation for real and see who's around. And all they got to do is make a phone call. And you know what? I had a controller in my company that I had. I hired her at 15 years old. At that point, she was 45. Okay? She worked for me 30 years. She was my sister. And then her husband molested one of their daughters. Bill Shaheen leveraged him, said, you know what? You're going to lose all your daughters, and your husband's going to jail. So now you work for us. You're going to destroy evidence. You're going to tell us where he's going to go. what he's going to do? Now, this woman named Lisa Tracy will testify to that. So the guy who's married to the senator is leveraging a woman with her 3 little girls on molestation. You see, that's who these people are. See, the hardest thing that I had in doing this is that we all have a moral code. We all see things in our own perception. I mean, it's hard for us to imagine where we come from, maybe a moral person, to think as evil as they are. They see you. They see you as a sucker. They see you as sheep. And they know you can't see them, which they come to you as smiling politicians, and then judges' robes, and the lawyers who come up and say, trust me. You can't beat them until you start seeing who they are. And then when you start seeing them, you've got to have the courage. It's a lot easier to see it and deny it. Because if you deny it, you get a license to do nothing. And I'll bet you there's more people, that's the majority, I think, that know it's corrupt. How many times have you ever heard, I know it's corrupt, but what are you going to do? I mean, how about this? You're already lost before we started. You've already accepted corruption. And I did a radio program with 4 or 5 young men. They were in college. It was called Wentworth Technical Institute. They won an award for college radio across the country. I was never asked such good questions. I had one young man there goes, I've been watching you since 10 years old. He's 20 now. And he goes, one day, he goes, I wanted to run a radio station and have you on there. And you know what? I said 10 years ago, I did that because I'm protecting that boy who's 20 now. It's his future. And you know something funny? It's those young people who realize it. It's fun. It's those guys just getting out of high school, just going into college. They feel like they've been cheated. They feel like their future is not good. And they're right. You have been sold out. Your parents and your parents before them were too fearful to take a stand to protect your future. I mean, we can fight wars offshore. We can go to Afghanistan. We can go to Syria. What about the people dying here? More people die of heroin in my state than die in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about the numbers they give you. You know what kind of lie that is? Think about this, overdose numbers. Well, wait a minute now. How many people die by murders and robbery from drugs? How many people in car accidents due to drugs? How many fires? How many robberies? That number is so much more. And then how many lives are lost forever? Visit those jails. I go to jails and I speak to them. I speak to prisoners to get out. I mean, one woman who was going to have her daughter on one of my shows, and her daughter died. You know what she died? Of an overdose in jail. That woman was on the program saying, at least my daughter's getting help. So when she's out of jail, she'll have her be able to begin her life again. How do you die of an overdose in jail? We had 4 overdoses 2 weeks ago in jail. 4 people died in the state of New Hampshire in jail, all on overdoses. And they have no contact with the outside. They're speaking to people through a glass window. It's the guards. We don't know that? How could it be anyone else?
That's a true fact, which you're clarifying there, and that's the one thing that people need to wake up and comprehend the real truth of what's going on compared to the fantasy, because they get numbed down because the TV rubs this into our face every day, every night. So people become so numb they don't realize what's really going on. They're conditioned. And you are familiar with the birth certificate bond, aren't you?
No.
You know your birth certificate is an insurance bond for the bank?
I'm not. You know what? I'm not that familiar with that. But I talk to a lot of constitutionalists, and we have long discussions and all, and I know their position. You know the thing here is, though, and we have discussions that way, It's the immediacy of where we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, we have made, and just turning this evidence, real breakthroughs. But we can't call a lawyer. We can't call a judge. We need to call a cop. One that's working.
Cop either, because they're not going to protect you.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. When I mean cop, someone honest or written, I don't care if that cop's, Trey Gowdy or the President of the United States. But some form of law enforcement has to turn around and counter this. I took this right up the ladder, exposed each and every one of them. I mean, my last 2 videos, I told each judge leaving that I was going to put them both in jail. I told the U.S. attorney I was going to put them in jail. And it is my intention. All I need is the president to stand up and say, okay, let's take a look at this evidence. It's indisputable. And how about this? I've got the IRS on tape, thingamo. They were mailing my IRS information to an accountant that I never talked to, never seen in my life. And they were doing it for 3 years. And the IRS, I caught them, and they admit it. You should hear them on the video, on the recording. Like they think it's a joke. And the reason why they haven't gone after me with taxes is because they know it is corrupted, and they know I have the evidence, and I don't want to close the taxes down on the forged tax return. They want me to bury the evidence. Or bury me. So that's what I'm asking people to do. If they can go to the website, they can... Facebook.
Yeah, and give that out, please. Give your website and your Facebook and your Yahoo or your structure out there. Please advise people where to go.
Well, stateofcorruption.org. If they go there, they'll collect all that information. Okay. They'll find Twitter and all that. Yeah. So, but Facebook is our most up to date. In fact, I just posted the video, and I posted it. I was right in the Lincoln Memorial area, and I posted it there. I've got to keep moving. That's how bad this is. I've got me and my son moving hotels and hiding outside of Washington. And I mean, I've never broken a law in my life. I've invested my money on saving lives. You know what they say? If turning in evidence and you feel like a criminal, you're run by criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's it. So I don't know what to do at this point. Whether stay in Washington or go back to New Hampshire, but they're going to have to stop the state of corruption. Because if you see what we're doing, when you start getting 2 million views, 2.2 million views on some of these videos, that's what scares them. Numbers scare the corrupt and the light. And then you get enough people who become victims. But see, here's the thing with victims. You can't build an army of victims and think you're going to win. Because what I found over the years, that a lot of these victims are beaten into submission. They're beaten poor. They're beaten to the point where they don't want to fight anymore. And the only way we win, what is it Benjamin Franklin said? As far as the way to fight tyranny is that you have to feel the same pain as the victim does. I mean, you have to be just as outraged as they are. So the people unaffected has to come forward. And the funny thing is when you start thinking of all the network of corruption, if you go through a divorce, you're going to become a victim. Do you know the thing with, are you guys familiar with Title 4D money?
Title what?
Title 4D money.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, a lot of people don't know that and it comes from the Social Security, that they have matching funds for child support. I mean, it's the GALs, it's the lawyers, it's the judges that are stealing that money. How's this? I only got the federal auditor, who's the federal auditor for 21 states, who's willing to come to me with President Trump and say that New Hampshire is opening up the dummy corporations and stealing money out of the general fund. She's afraid for her life, and she's a federal auditor.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of people afraid of dying here. I started hearing about military and how many did you see these poppy fields in Afghanistan right out of American bases? I mean,
we're protecting.
Yes, I'm wondering. Could it be that the DEA is part of this? I know they're protecting it. I'm thinking it's beyond. For instance, the police chief in this town of Bedford, do you know what he was before he was police chief? He was a department head of over 300 people at the DEA in Pennsylvania. This guy pops up in the drug dealer kingpin town and becomes the police chief? How do you do that? This guy was in charge of 300 agents. And then they open a DEA office in the same town. You know how to protect them? Have the people who are responsible for investigating and arresting in your pocket. That's the best way to stay safe. Oh, I'll investigate them, don't worry. They are them. I caught dumping in the state. Chemical dumping. Not me. I had a guy 80 years old who lived along the river. He built a house, a little small shack, 100 fruit trees. He videotaped this dumping over and over, creating dead spots in the river, Merrimack River. Highest river carcinogenic in the country. You ready? Do you know who he reported the crime to? Was the Water Pollution Board. The person who owns the Water Pollution Board owned the dumping company.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
This is strange. I got somebody at my door. Go ahead.
Right. And you know something? It's the typical how that goes. The people investigating. You don't think these cops make more money protecting the drug dealers, than what they get as a public servant? And then they get to the point where they say, well, everybody's doing it. Well, you're not going to, if I'm not going to do it, it's not going to change anything. They reason these things out in their own mind. And then this corruption's rampant. So on this Friday, I have a feeling they're going to shut down State of Corruption, the website. Because that's how dangerous it is.
Could be. Could very well be.
Yeah. Well, I'll put that on video too, but that could be my last one. You'll see how long I've been doing that. I have over 400 videos. And what I did was when I was uncovering these people, I was exposing it then, right to the point where we've kind of brought this up to date. I'm videotaping as this is happening, and I'm knocking on those doors. You'll see me go into the FBI. You'll see me knock on it. I had 3 times where the FBI refused to open the door. One time I took a lounge chair with me and sat in the hallway in front of their door. And no one came out in hours. And I videotaped the whole thing. That's how easy it is to see. So, all right, guys. I guess I'm tired, I guess.
It will wear you out. Trust us.
I can only tell you I'm outside of Washington.
Ed and I have been at this combined for over 60 years. And trust me, I know your feelings personally. Ed and I both have experienced the way you feel. And I have to commend you on your fight to continue your effort. And we have to nail these guys. I'm just now posting on my website the government agencies and forms where to go to get them. And I hope that'll help anybody.
I will definitely look, because I could use help that way. I was a guy who owned a business. I'm just a mortgage guy. You know what I really was? I'm a father of 5 people. I'm a pissed off dad. That's what I am beyond anything else. And that's the thing that was the most important thing to me.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, it's been a struggle. Even recently, because I'm having a hard time walking now. When they put me in prison, they gave me arsenic and they damaged my heart. So, it's tested too. I even got the medical records from the prison. So I'm constantly out of breath. And the one thing that was good on me was my heart, these dirty bastards. I mean, I had other issues, but that wasn't one of them. I just don't want this to go for nothing, you know? But that's why I put it on videos. The one thing they can't do is take away that truth. And I think over time, they'll prove it, because the thing with the corrupt, it's absolute. There's no checks and balances. Their greed is what made them, for instance, the largest drug dealers in New Hampshire. It was the greed. I mean, they're just going to kill more and more people till finally, then maybe. But I'm not even telling you then, because if you don't stand up for the health and welfare of your children, who are you going to deal with? Who are you going to stand up for? I mean, that was, if I have a miscalculation in this war that I started, was the fact that people wouldn't stand up. That it was this depth of fear. But you know what I told you? It's like you can't imagine it, you can't see it. Well, that was the other thing. I couldn't see that fear in people. I thought the outrage, and it just, it's happening, but not enough and not fast enough. Because we're in a war. I mean, this war is within this country. I don't care. I mean, outside this country, it's here. Our terrorists are amongst us, are ruling us. I mean, there's our terrorists. I mean, I haven't had anybody overseas trying to kill me. But here I do. One of even my lawyers. In fact, one of the lawyers came in on my second day. They tried to kill me in prison and told me to take a deal. And I gave them a letter in writing, said they were going to murder me that day. And we don't have to guess. Guess what? I posted it all in the video. And even he had to give me the note and verify that I did give it to him. So you tell me, how did I pick that they were going to try to murder me that very night that they did?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to lay down. Just the thing with me, John.
I know 3 people who work for the UN. The same thing happened to them. They got to the point where they exposed too much stuff, and they put a bullet in their head.
Yeah.
And they survived it, luckily. But they actually put the bullet in their head.
I want you to listen, if you have an opportunity, to the video called Kill Gil. You're going to hear a guy who's working for the mafia, admitting. You're going to hear him how he collects. He goes into a guy's office that he explains, and he sends his partner to the guy's house. The guy partner takes a chainsaw to his 5-year-old girl's throat, and then on the phone say, are you going to pay me now, or am I going to cut your little girl's head off? Now, what I'm telling you is on audio. That's who these people are. He told me he would murder me, but he didn't do politics. Remember I told you I was running for governor. That's the only reason why I'm here. And then he turns around and says the same auto fair that I'm saying drugs are coming out of there, he's worked there for 7 years. He's saying he can make
the CIA's pushing drugs because they cut the bodies of the dead soldiers open, they stuff them full of drugs, and they ship them here. Then after they get here, they open them back up and take the drugs out.
Well, didn't they, the big New York, who was that? Frank Lucas. Do you remember Frank Lucas out of New York?
Yep.
What they did was, during the Vietnam War, he was packing American bodies, dead GIs, going over in caskets, inside the caskets. That's how they were bringing the heroin here.
Yeah.
But they don't even have to be that tricky now. They get the hospitals.
These people have no sense of morality or anything else. It's all about the money.
It is true. And that's the thing. I always, during the process of all this, I kept thinking, there's going to come a time where they couldn't do this. And every time I thought that there was a limitation to their evil, I was wrong. Even now, I've never found the bottom of that well.
Yeah.
No.
Makes you sick.
Yeah. Monday. In fact, there's a chance Monday they could put me in jail.
Wow.
You watch, and you know what? You'll read that Mike Gill had a heart attack. You watch. That's why I tell people I have a death video even. I've had to change it twice. And I even asked the people today, if something happens to me, watch my children, because I'm trying to protect yours. And that's how these people get me. They know at this point, I'm already assumed that I'm dead. That's how you can fight, You have to release all fear. The only fear I ever had was of my children, and they used it. Why do you think I went to jail when I tried to show the judge 2 letters that threatened to murder my kids? Now, why is it that he wouldn't look at that? Then he ordered the tape to be destroyed of the hearing and put me in jail. And in 2 days after that, they tried to kill me. That judge knew exactly what he was doing.
Sure he did. Sure he did.
That was all orchestrated. And then the guy I was working with, Aaron Day, who ran for Senate, they threatened to murder him, sued him for $20 million, and now he's helping them. And this is a guy who ran for Senate. This is a guy who was the president of, what party? Was it the Liberty Party? So, but well connected. In fact, his mother was the head of the Republican Party. Her last name is Day. So this is... Excuse me?
Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes, stateofcorruption.org. Facebook. Yes, stateofcorruption.org. I just posted a video today of me in Washington on Facebook, and I told them what the DEA agent told me. You know what he said? He said, "Did you go to the press?" Go to the press. What a joke with the press. You know something? These people are the best customers of the press. And the press is all in, because the press has got to make them look like good. For instance, Anagos, the head of the drug dealer, he's the businessman of the year. His partner, Cruz, is the citizen of the year. And what do? They promote them from the media. So the media makes these people look like they're generous, moral people. It is a front. And these media people sell us out. For instance, AutoFair, their company is the biggest advertiser with the news channel in this state and the biggest newspaper. And that's how they do it. And if you take them down, then you get the media having to explain how they christened them Jesus. And so it's a revolving door. I've caught them too. I've given the evidence, murder, all of it, to the newspapers. In fact, I was doing an interview, went to give them the evidence. You know what the reporter said? And it's on video. Oh, we have that already. Then why are you here and asking me questions? It means you didn't even read the evidence. And she goes, no. She goes, I got a thing about saving trees. What? Right. Children are dying, and she doesn't want to read the paper because she doesn't want to kill trees. But she's there asking me questions on that evidence. And again, there's a video. See, that's the thing, Have you noticed they don't like videos in the courtrooms? You notice the cops don't like wearing videotape? From now on, I'm thinking that's got to be one of the... If you're a police officer, you got to wear a body cam. If you're in jail, every cell body cam. All camera. You'll get all the drugs selling. You'll turn around and these cops will be a little bit careful. You put cameras in these courtrooms, that's why every time I go in the courtroom, I have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you explore it. And I'm telling you, how about this? What I do in the state of corruption is the victims in the state, if we hear what they're doing, we'll go with them to court. See, I help people every day. I go to the prisons. I go to court with these people. We bring in a camera. In the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 cases. They've thrown them all out as soon as I came in with a camera. One judge goes, hey, hi, Mike. He goes, boom, case dismissed, and walked right out. He even said hello to me.
Case dismissed. Do you nail him on the color of law fraud?
No.
But the gold fringe flag, read Executive Order 10834 by Dwight David Eisenhower. The next time you go into court, look for the false flag.
All right. You know what I do with these judges? I have a series of signs because I have mortgage companies. I have one sign in Manchester that's probably about 80 feet long and about 30 feet high, something like that. And I put the judges and call them corrupt faces on the sign.
Oh,
so 24 hours, I got 6 on it right now. 6 judges right now. So 24 hours a day. And I am telling you, I got a picture of them, maybe 20 by 20. Okay? So in other words, you can see it for about 1.5 miles away. And I've got them on all my signs. And here's the other thing. You know the drug dealers? I got their pictures and names on my sign, and I call them drug dealers. And that's why I'm important to hear, but I won't take them down. So in other words, that's why the press, you embarrass the press. And you have people see this. I've had them on there for over a year, the drug dealers. And the judges, what I do is I pick a hit judge. And then I take the crookedest judge of the week and slap them up on the sign. So, and people are loving it. You know, people are responding. That's why they got to stop us. It's because they are responding. If you guys look, you'll see how the volume of, and you'll see, I'll bet you it's 99% positive. And that's what I try to keep politics out of it. I tell them I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I hate them equally. You know, I hate corruption. I don't want to play. I'm a free-thinking American, you know, and I make my own mind up. But it's like, see, that's how they separate us, you know. I've done this by dealing with trolls on there. Race, religion, and politics. As minute as you get some momentum, somebody says something about Trump, someone says something to Clinton, and I turn around and say, oh, wait a minute, we're reporting a crime and corruption here. This isn't about politics. Now, I believe that Clinton was filthy corrupt because I know Shaheen was. And if Shaheen's her campaign manager, how would they not connect it? And this thing with the IRS, how do you get the adjutant general of the IRS to put them all in there? Who's got the juice on the adjutant general of the United States? If it isn't a Clinton, who would have that juice that would incriminate the adjutant general?
That's true.
I know, because that's what I do. I try to find the end of the rope each and every time. And that's why I could. That's why I had to keep hoping on Trump, because I knew I was a dead man with Clinton. Because then Shaheen, who's the right hand man of hers, then I had no juice whatsoever. But Trump was our hope because he spoke about corruption. He was talking about the heroin crisis. Where is it now? You know, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys feel with President Trump? Do you think he's going to do something, or was it all just politics?
He hasn't been in there 100 days. I'm not going to judge him until that 100 days is up. But right now, Ed and I are feeding him information on the illegal aliens and the fraudulent court system and all kind of stuff. I mean, we've been at this now since before he was elected. We put affidavits into him.
I'm not asking him. He has to come here and do it all himself. How about this? Give me a couple prosecutors. Give me the ability to give immunity, and I'll wrap this sucker up in about 2 weeks.
Well,
and if they don't think it's possible,
if you're not going to prosecute Hillary, give me a special prosecutor and a grand jury, and I'll take care of her.
There you go. And the same thing in this state. We could peel this back. Think about this. The one thing that protects them is the size of the corruption. The one thing that will sink them is the size of the corruption. There's too many people that'll get scared and turn on them. We
can file this into the U.S. Court of Claims?
Listen, I'm open. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know if that's it, but I'm looking for help. So if that's something you can do, I'm open to that. But I'm seeing, and even Sessions. These U.S. attorneys, what they guess, 46 to resign? I mean, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah. How many federal judges have already been arrested? I think there's been something like 8 this last week.
I know. This is if they just turn around and give me a couple people, we'll make history. We'll make history. And you know something? Think about New Hampshire's a small state, which is
well, here's
why...
a thought for you. Go to JAG Corps, Air Force JAG Corps.
See, what I'm trying to do is create a model. If we can peel this back and show people how to bring this down, this will work in each and every state. I know there's corruption throughout this country. I've dealt with Pennsylvania. I've dealt with Massachusetts. But you know what we need? We need a victory. We need a model. And if we can show them that it can be done here, then it can be done in every state. My intention was, and even Trump knows this, I was using my own money. I refused money from everybody. I was going to start a state of corruption in every state. So the point where if you feel like your rights have been violated, you come to see us. We'll go to court with you. We'll bring a camera in with you. We'll listen to your situation. You know, we'll turn around and we'll go to court with you together. So all of a sudden, if there's something like you're not going to court alone, I'll make a phone call, put it on Facebook, and we'll have 300 people show up with you.
There you go.
And we'll do it with a camera. And it's working.
Are you familiar with my webpage, Tax Fraud in America?
Mm-hmm.
I put that out to let people comprehend the fact that the IRS have no jurisdiction inside the Republic.
Well, they're extortionists.
Their only jurisdiction is in the holding territories belonging to the United States and Washington, D.C. and New York City and New York. That's it. That's why they call it the Internal Revenue Code.
I walked right into the IRS in Washington, told them what I had, and they knew what I had.
Yeah.
They listened to the video.
I bill and invoice the IRS every month, and I have been since 2005. They now owe me $9.8 billion, and I want it.
Yeah.
And it's a true bill and invoice because I sent to them affidavits in Admiralty, unrebutted. I billed and invoiced them, and they failed to pay it. So guess what? I got a true bill and invoice. And they're on their third notice of, what do they call that thing? It's like a default notice. I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway,
I know what you're saying.
I've served this on them. 3 consecutive months I've written this thing and served them on it.
You know, if you get a chance, listen to that tape.
Furnishing my Social Security to the tune of $248 without due process of law. I'm pissed.
Well, I had the DRA on fraud come in and take $700,000 out of my business account, take all my personal money, and the tax return they use is a certified forgery. I never even seen the tax return.
The 1040, the supposed 1040 debt that I have, which the 1040 has no standing in law, and that was ruled in 2005 in the U.S. District Court, Grand Rapids, Michigan, because it has no OMB number on it. And that's a violation of the Paperwork Reduction Act. So whenever they send you that 1040, they got to send you a form under 44 U.S.C. at 3512 Public Protection. You're not required to fill this form out.
Well, I had just paid them $10 million not too long ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know it.
I refused to pay them. They got this debt out there. I've asked the Social Security Administrator. I said, okay, in Schultz versus IRS, Second Circuit Court of Appeals, January 2005, the decision of the court was the IRS can take no action against a supposed taxpayer without first taking them to court. Well, you've been stealing money from me since July 2005, and you have yet to produce any court decision, writ, or anything. Pay me my friggin' money.
And when you have the top guy in the IRS committing fraud, think about this. Why couldn't you anybody who has a situation with the IRS standing right now, the fact that the Adjutant General is on tape committing fraud and extortion by having a mole inside a company, to me, you should be able to put a stay on all proceedings with the IRS based on corruption.
That's right. I completely agree with you, 100%.
Right. I mean, if I can prove that you're 100% corrupt, who are you to leverage and extort me? You know, we got, and we have them on tape. And want me to tell you how the TITCA people, the criminal division of the IRS, they begged me. And if you guys are listening, you know that's true. They begged me not to play that video. And I told them, Jesus couldn't stop me from playing this. And it's out there, and it's been out there for a year. And they haven't said a word.
I love it.
Right. I mean, they could put you in jail for that. And they won't even talk to me about it. So that's what I mean. I wonder if people understood the importance and weight of that, because that could be a class action suit, that could be an investigation, that could tear down the IRS the way they're doing business now.
Yes.
I mean, that's what that is.
Why I'm trying to find the right form for us to use to where we can go get these bastards.
Well, I'm open for ideas. You're welcome to any of my and all of my evidence. Fake, false, forged tax returns, Adjutant General. How about this? I got the cousin of the head of the criminal division using his cousin to disguise mailings of the FBI, which is also wire and mail fraud. And I also have a video of that where you see that information, you see those letters, and you see me go give it to the United States Attorney. And I did that on video. When I handed that to this United States Attorney, I'm telling you, he jumped 2 feet back. He goes, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching it.
Case rulings of the United States Supreme Court that aren't found in the IRS code?
What was that again?
There are some 60 key case rulings of the United States Supreme Court that favor you and I on taxes that are not found in the IRS code. I have a list of all 60 of them. It's on Tax Fraud in America.
Yeah, we have a lot of evidence that we're able to share with people, but the main thing is getting people to realize that the Supreme Court rulings are real, and everybody wants to argue about, oh, well, the Constitution ain't real. It's an instrument that doesn't apply to us. Well, it's an instrument that applies to the lawful bloodline of Americans. It does not apply to immigration. And we have the immigration laws on it to prove it. And this is where people don't get this reality, because it is a reality of what's going on. You know, we've been fighting this structure for some time, and until the mainstream structure was able to get us to get information out to we and the public and everything, until this happened, we weren't able to get this stuff out to the public. Right now, I'm going after filed a recall on the Oregon State governor, and I filed treason charges on her. Now, you comprehend how severe that is. And so they're freaking out because it's like everybody's going, Ed, why would you do this, Ed? I've been around the system myself. I grew up around it, and so I do know the fraud more than what everybody else contemplates it, thinks about it, and they don't think it's as severe as it is, but it really is worse than what people really think it is.
Beyond, how about this? I still think it's worse than I think it is, because I keep getting surprised. Right, I ain't found the wall yet. I mean, on Friday I had a conversation with the DEA agent that told me to take it to the press. And then we went in, and he had to look at it because he seen that I had evidence on his boss. And they weren't very happy with that. And then when they started listening to all I had, then they started going, well, where are you?
Yeah, and I've been there, and you don't sing.
That's why even in Washington today, I had to be careful. I was looking over my shoulder the whole time. But it's like, how do they almost set you up. Because then all of a sudden you get an interest. You don't know if you're walking into a trap.
Been there, done it.
Yeah. Yep. They set me up in a courtroom one time because they owed my paralegal. They gave me wrong dates. I walked in there, and the next thing I know, I'm in shackles. And what they did was they took the money out of they give you bail, and what they did was they took all the money out of my business account. $96,000 bail, cash.
Mm-hmm.
On a contempt because I wanted the judge to take the evidence about murdering my kids.
I think who was on our show the other day, Ed, that said contempt is not for we the people, it's for they.
Yeah, technically it is for them, and I don't recall the gentleman's name that was on the other day, but that's a fact, and not only that, we do have some of the laws on that clarifies that, so it's not a conflict of interest. And this is the one thing people don't realize, that the evidence is out there, but it's using it and knowing how to use it compared to what we think it is.
Well, here's the thing. And who do you give it to? I mean, there's the thing. There's the $64,000. Who gets the evidence? And, the lawyers, how they turn around and say, well, how can all these lawyers be corrupt? There is an answer to that. What's the commonality in all these lawyers?
Okay,
their license.
Well,
and
they're members of the BAR, right? British Accreditation.
Well, you know what it is? The PCC.
Card.
The PCC is the Conduct Committee. What they do is they have their people run it. Their people run it. So if you get out of line, they pull your license. You don't work no more. So when they say, how can that be controlled? Well, guess what? It can be controlled by their license. And I've had a dozen attorneys turn on me and even offered me settlements. My last attorney, Morris Mahoney, was part of the $50 million settlement because they can't go against these people and not lose their license.
The judge, during a trial, holds the bar card hostage of the defense attorney. If he doesn't wiggle the way the judge wants him to wiggle, he disbars him.
Right.
The business.
Right. I had one judge throw the case out. She was 88 years old.
Every case going into court is a fraud scheme. The judge is running a bond, QSIP, and commodities fraud against everyone who enters the court under color of law fraud.
And are you aware about the bonds and that stuff?
No.
Okay, we'll have to tie up with you, and we can give you a lot of information on that, where to find the bonds and that stuff, because once you start figuring out their bonds, they get terrified.
Those bonds are insurance.
They're insurance from the bank. Because the only one, insurance companies are the bankers and banks, don't you? Are you familiar with that?
A little bit, right. I'm in mortgages, so I have a pretty good handle on it.
Of it then. So you know what we're referring to then.
Yeah.
So yeah, we know this, and we know about the mortgage loans and how all that goes. The shams that are placed on people. We know about the reinsurance on mortgages, that once you sign for it, the bond is already paid for under the reinsurance or insurance on it, and if the signer doesn't claim it, then the mortgage company or banks do. So we've done a lot of extensive research in this stuff, including the banking laws, administrative rules from the banks, what they have to go by, what they can't do, what they can do. So yeah, it is about proper education.
Right. See, that's why the banking commission is so important to these guys. It's those audits, it's those investigations, it's hiding that money. It's that I didn't know that. That took me a couple of years to put together. I knew they were corrupt. I knew they were protecting a Ponzi scheme, but I didn't know they were laundering drug money until I got information on the drug dealers. And you know what I found out? The drug dealers was the missing piece in the puzzle. I had all the corrupt government. I had the control on the courts. I had the control with the law firms and the insurers. And then all of a sudden, when I started investigating the drug dealers, who were their partners? All these people. I said, there it is. That's why we have the worst drug problem in America, because they were protected from top and bottom. The politicians, the law firms, they're partners. And they create a second generation. Because you know what happens? Guys like Shaheen, they start getting 70 years old, this one, that. They start retiring. You know what they need? They need a corrupt new generation. Because if they don't put corrupt people in behind them, they could still go to jail. So what they do is they literally create a generation of corruption. And believe me, they have enough candidates holding their hands up, and the filthiest and the dirtiest of them all are the ones that get promoted. Because those are the ones they can trust the most.
Yeah, that is a real fact, and it is knowing, because remember, a lot of these people truly do, and I mean truly do, sleep in the same bed.
Right.
And people don't comprehend it, and it is that severity. It's like the state of Oregon passes this, what the hell is that, basically selling children and all this stuff. I'm trying to think of the technical word. But they passed, go ahead, Dave.
Children trafficking.
Right, children trafficking, and they passed the, basically the state trafficking bill that it's not supposed to happen. But see, when they pass that bill, it enforces the trafficking.
Right.
Without the job security of the district attorney, the cops, and everybody playing the field, they can't sit there and write more debt off on the birth certificate bond claiming debt for their salaries, claiming income.
Can you imagine a society with feeding our children drugs and selling them? I mean, are we morally bankrupt at this point?
Yeah.
Well, you know they're doing that in our water system, don't you?
Well, I told you what I caught with one of the water systems in the Merrimack.
Yeah. Well, you know what fluoride is, don't you?
Yes.
You know it's rat poison, right?
I know, and that was in Michigan too. And there's the thing here, the Merrimack River that runs through there. Think about this: how expensive is it now to dump chemical waste, toxic waste? So in other words, all of a sudden, the state pays for this stuff to be removed from hospitals and so forth and prisons, and they dump it in the river. And that they pay these agencies to turn around properly dispose them. And this old man that videotaped them, you know what they did? They tried to take his home. He was just a squatter. He's been there for 22 years. He lived out in the woods. You know what I did? I went to court with him, and I got him the property because he lived there for over 20 years without anybody, posting for him to leave. So he got squatter's rights. But they had the top law firm in the state turn around and try to evict this guy, and he was almost, I think he was like 78, 79. Let's tell you this. He was a Silver Star winner, this guy. He's living out in the woods, but he's clear of mind. This guy's a war hero. And they turned around and tried to make him homeless because he reported them dumping river in the Merrimack. And you hear him on the thing. You'll see the videos. I called one my friend Dave, and and you hear him. He said they're killing our kids. And along the Merrimack, they had all kinds of cancer-related issues with people, and they can feed it back to the river and the toxic water. And see, that river is also used for drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine throwing toxins into a river knowing that people are drinking from it?
Well, not only that, it's worse than that. Our animals are drinking from it, and it's our food resources.
How about this? You'll love that video. I call it black gold. How about this along the banks? Like you said, the animals are eating it. I got all their bones. The whole side of the thing on the banking is dead. It looks like an animal cemetery. I mean, I had a couple cows dead. Now, how are they dying from the same area, which just happens to be dumping, which I even have the truck I get the video of the truck dumping the waste into the river. And you know what they did to this old man? They beat him so bad, they ripped his thumb completely off. Now, what I'm telling you is all documented. You can look at that, and I posted it. Imagine that. That's how they beat him. Oh, boy. I mean,
that's one thing. We are aware of those things.
Those are hard for me sometimes. You know, it's one thing when I do it. When I see an older man that definitely, he must weigh 120 pounds, and they beat him bad, real bad. They had the handcuffs so tight on his wrists, he lost control of a couple of his fingers. Nerve damage, and his thumb was off to the skin, and he can't move it. It's so stitched back, but he's lost control. All because he reported chemical dumping. Have you ever heard of a woman named Erin Brockovich?
Oh, yes, and when I tried to do that with the dumping out here, she ran like hell. She told me that she didn't want to do this stuff anymore, so it was up to us to do it. And it's like, well, I wanted to get some of the evidence on a couple of her cases that I wanted, and then that way if I had the evidence, it would have sealed the deal. Because I'm dealing with that.
I gave it to her, and I can only tell you this. The EPA helicoptered into the property. Now, I haven't heard anything since, and it's been a little while. But that did happen. So I'm not sure if she had something to do with it. But an EPA, and it was a helicopter, and they spoke to Dave. So I don't know if we'll have it, but that did happen. And I think she opened up an office. I think she's from Massachusetts, so it was the neighboring state. But listen, I don't know if I haven't seen anything happen anywhere as far as correcting the situation. That was the killer when I went to the Department of Water to find out that the person who owned the dumping company was the chairwoman.
That's not a
outlaw these metal handcuffs.
And they were even dumping from other states, coming into New Hampshire and dumping into the river. But, so you know what, I would like to keep talking to you guys too, as far as maybe I'll let you. What I would like to do is tell you guys what happened on Friday too. Yeah, that's going to be on Friday. I got a hearing. I have a feeling that they're going to try to shut the site down.
Well, you can come back on next Monday night after that and bring that info if you would like.
You know what? I would. I'll give you guys a call on Monday. I'll post the video too.
Okay.
So if I wind up going to jail and you don't hear me on Monday, you'll know why.
Okay.
But you know what? I'll have it on videotape. You'll all get to see it.
Yeah, send us a list of who all you want us to contact. If we don't hear from you, we'll be calling people.
I appreciate it. That's what saved me last time, On the second one.
You have our attention.
Last time I went to jail, I think what saved me was that there was a outrage throughout the state, and people, I think we had like 1 million views and like 600-700 comments about getting me out of jail. So I think that really did help. And that's why I try to keep it, it's like a balance. You've got to be able to be as public as you are dangerous.
Exactly.
If you become more dangerous than you are public, you go missing. So it's almost like a constant race. The closer I get, the more public I got to be.
Right. That's why whenever I post something to Trump's page, I give it to at least 3 other people as witnesses. And then I post it on Facebook, which God knows where it ends up. But that's public notice. Anything you put on Facebook, the judge, the Supreme Court ruled, is public notice. Did you know that?
No, I did. I did.
You post.
But I will tell you this too. I believe social media is the last bastion of honest media. No, I'm not saying. I mean, at least we can get. You can go to the press and they won't print any of this.
That's
it just
right.
don't. So in other words, at least
by the Center on Foreign Relations, all the press, all the newspapers, and all that's owned by the members of the foreign. Center on Foreign Relations. They're all members. Bill Clinton's a member of that.
You know, and I didn't want to get political, but I can tell you that Shaheen was protected by Clinton because this isn't my first trip to Washington. And that's why I'm so disappointed, because I expected more. Now, I know it's the first 100 days and all, but people are dying. I mean, it wasn't like he didn't promise about this heroin in New Hampshire so many times.
Explain to me why they don't legalize all drugs and then tax them to build the rehab centers and get people off of them. But they don't want people off of them. That's why they won't legalize them.
You know how you get people off of drugs? You give them hope.
Yeah.
You know what? You give them jobs. You legalize marijuana, and you know what you say? You see all these guys in jail go, we're going to put you in business. We're going to show you how to make a business, you know? And you know, we're going to give you hope. So you can buy a home, you can have a family. These people, these young people, they've run out of hope. They get on drugs, they don't get an education, and they can't survive. And what happens
they know how to play video games. They're really good at that. But what's that? What kind of life is that for the rest of your life? And what income does it produce? Actually, it doesn't. Income is a result of corporate activity. Must include the sale of capital asset. That's ruling of the Supreme Court. Do you find it in the IRS code? No. Did you know that the Supreme Court ruled that Congress, by legislation, cannot define income since it can't alter the Constitution from which it derives its power to legislate? So if Congress can't define income, why do we have an income tax?
Right. But it's true, like in New Hampshire, right? We have the highest cost of living per income, second to California. And they don't make any money. I mean, that's what's going on. That when they put me in jail, that was the worst thing they should have did. You know why? Because I met these kids. I'd seen the ones that still had decency, you know, that could be saved. And they weren't going to be saved.
Right.
And that's what I'll tell you a story. And I did it on the radio, and I did it on the interview with this gentleman afterwards. That week, that time that I went down from being, you know, poisoned, there was a young man, maybe 22 years old, in a cell next to mine, and he heard me scream for help on the vent, and they weren't coming, and the guards weren't coming. They were watching outside the door. He started banging and asking for help, and that's when they had to come and help me. Now, may God strike me dead if this isn't true, and you see an interview with me, and he tells you the truth. You know what they did to this young man the next night? They sent 2 thugs in. They beat him and raped him and had me hear it. Okay? On the last day of my stay, these 2 same guys, you know what they do? They deliver the drugs. They handle the food carts. So your door opens up for the food. They come in and beat the hell out of you. I turned around and took a small pencil, put it inside my hand, just through my fingers. And I told them to open that door up and come on in. And they didn't. And you hear that man, that young man, after he got out of jail, tell that story. He told the story.
Wow.
But they made me hear. I will tell you, that was the most emotional moment in my life, to hear him cry. I'll never forget it. And you know something? It was a mistake. How about this? The second time I went in, I was in a processing area. And when I went in to sit down, say there was maybe 8 to 10 cells, all young people. You know what they started doing? Banging on the door saying state of corruption.
Wow.
That was the best moment in my life.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah. So, that's funny. I just put a thought to it. The worst place and the best place.
Wow.
I know. This is I was the world champion at thoroughbred racing. I beat the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And what I'm telling you is all over. I am the Babe Ruth of racing. I should have been under a palm tree 20 years ago.
Right.
But this was something that I had an idea, the depth, the trouble was going to be. Mm-hmm. But I had to see a little light. As long as I see a little light, I'll get to it. It might take me a while, but I'll get to it. But it's the idea and the be able to fight in complete darkness. Mm-hmm. That's a hard task, and you're just going to keep fighting to see the light. And I'm trying, and I saw that light here. And what I did was I decided it wasn't something. If I turned around and turned my back on everybody, I couldn't live with myself. And I'll tell you something. Money never made me happy, which is why I spend it, and put it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. My children made me happy, not my money. Money was something I made because I was a competitor.
Family's everything to you. If you grew up in the right family environment, buddy, your family is all there is that counts.
It is. My children were my life. I came home from work. They'd be out there. They'd be waiting by the door with a ball or a bat or a football. I had batting cages. I had basketball courts for my kids. I'm telling you, we were pals, all of us. I have 4 sons. That the smallest one's 6'4" to 6'8", and get a chance to be in the NBA. He's in college right now, but he's a heck of a player. But it's like that was my life, wasn't this? And it's what they did to my family.
Yeah.
When they threatened to kill, my children get scared.
Yep.
Like my boy just left the room. He's to get something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you went through on that because I lost my family because of what I ended up doing.
How would you like a letter of marque and reprisal?
Yeah.
Do you know what he's talking about that?
No, but I understood about losing your family.
So explain that to him, Dave.
The letter of marque and reprisal, I got it from Rod Class, who got it from Congress. Okay, because they have the authority to grant letters of marque and reprisal. It gives you more authority than any government entity in the United States. It's inland piracy. You can go after these people.
Yeah. Well, they'll kill you.
Wipe them out.
This guy the guy in Miami, when he broke into the door, I had one of my youngest sons in the room. If they were going to kill me, they were going to kill him too.
Sure,
and my son that left the room, right? He's not here. I have to sit with myself, saying to myself, if they do try to kill me, they could try to kill my son. Am I endangering my son?
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to do, And my children don't have. What's that?
They say these guys are ruthless. They don't care.
Know.
They don't care, and we shouldn't care about them.
Well, you know what?
One of us, we ought to take 10 of them.
And that's what I've always been that fighter.
It says, when the law of man will not prevail, the law of nature must. If we have laws and they're not enforcing them, then we have a right to enforce them ourselves. That's the law.
I know. But the thing here is, it's like I had a town next to mine called Salem Cops. What they did was they had a van, a guy come in, run me right off the road, and the cops backed me back right behind me so I couldn't move. The guy got out of the van and said, if we wanted to shoot you in the face right now, what would you do? And then everybody got back in their car and drove away. That happened 2 weeks ago. Just to tell me they could kill me if they wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah. Put me right into a snowbanking.
For unlawful arrest, and it's nothing more than involuntary manslaughter?
I sleep with a shotgun and a .38.
Good.
And you know something? I put it on Facebook. And I even put the shotgun on my table and said, I'll be home Friday right through to Sunday if you want to come by. Because I was getting death threats. I had the Hells Angels dig a grave, put a cross on it with my name on it, and post it on Facebook. Yeah. So you know what I said? I said, okay, guys, you ready? And you'll see the video. You'll see I put the shotgun right on the table. Come on by. I said, don't expect to leave, but you're welcome to come.
But come on by.
Yeah. I am telling you, I am not afraid to fight. And I'm not afraid to die either. I know that sounds a little out there, but I can tell you this. If you are, then you're not ready for this. Because then fear will control you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm 61 years old. I don't know of a better cause. And we're all going to die. And we send 18-year-olds over to war.
That's right.
I said we're better prepared to deal with this war than they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was talking to those young college students, as smart as they were and as good kids as they were, they clearly are not prepared to deal with this. This has got to be on us.
That's right.
It can't be on them. And if we keep letting this get deeper and wider, we're putting them in a position where they're never going to win.
That's right.
Even if we don't win, it might be that they do.
Yeah.
But we can't say we didn't fight. That's
right.
what I mean. I'm of clear conscience, no matter what happened, because I put all my money. I'll go from being worth hundreds of millions of dollars to being homeless within the next couple of weeks, and I'm fine with it. 100%. I won't miss a penny. And it was like it was what I could do mentally that made me this money. But I will look back at it and say, I will not have a sleepless night. I gave everything, and I'll keep fighting. I'll keep fighting on my own personal Facebook. I'll keep going out there and reporting this and trying to be as public as possible. I don't give up. And, I mean, that's how I became the world champion of racing in the biggest mortgage company, and that's what they should have paid attention to. They screwed with the wrong guy. They screwed with my children.
Yeah. Yeah, when they mess with family, buddy, that's when I draw the line.
Well, they threatened to cut my kids' heads off, and they meant it. I've got one text message, you hear them, about they're telling me where my kids live. They just told me that my son had just moved in with a buddy, and they were right, and put the address. I posted it all.
Good.
Yeah, we definitely know that one.
Yeah. Well, they better hope they don't. What we were talking about, you hurt my children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming for all of you.
You betcha.
And they better hope to hell I don't get a terminal illness.
And I'm going to...
They poisoned me in jail last time they did, so I'm dealing with that one right now.
Me too. They did it to me too. I proved it. I've got the medical records.
Same here. It was even published in the newspapers.
Mine was too.
So, you know. Oh, yeah. No. I'm on the same path of which you've gone. I mean, the one thing is I had an interesting arena that I grew up in around, but my problem is I wouldn't sell my soul to the company store.
Mm.
So that's where I ran into a lot of my circumstances, so I just couldn't sell my soul, and so people really got that one.
I was the same way. But it is so hard on your family. When you're set losing a family and you understand, you know that is one of the hardest things. Because as long as you fight, your children are under that stress too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And in
your
time...
whole family is. I
Yeah.
mean, your extended family, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, they know what you're going through. It affects everybody.
And sometimes they get mad at you. Because they
Yes,
turn
they
around and
do.
say, how about this, you know? How many times they turn around and he goes, Dad, couldn't you have just taken the $50 million? couldn't you have just taken the $50 million? And I tried to explain it to them and try to understand. It's like they have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the other thing, too, is we figure out is that my children aren't me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not them. And I tried to explain it to you. I'm saying I wouldn't hold it against you guys for not doing it. You know, meaning not dedicating this.
Right.
And you know something, it's like all these years you look back and you have, it's not a regret that I could change, but you have disappointments. Like they leveraged me with my little girl. I mean, I haven't seen my little girl. She was 12 years old. She's 23 on the 18th of April.
Jeez.
Yeah. You know, and all my kids were close, and I was close with all of them. My wife was a borderline personality disorder and couldn't be left alone. She's playing ball with them because she knew I was turning in the Ponzi scheme, so they turned around, and even though I had half custody, they alienated me from my daughter and leveraged me with it, meaning if I settled, they would work it out.
Yeah. Why'd they put Maddox in jail for Ponzi scheme when they're doing it themselves? Jesus.
How about this? That Ponzi scheme that I told you about was the same week they caught Madoff.
Oh,
same
God.
week. It was called the FRM Ponzi scheme. The banking commission, right? This guy, Shaheen, ran it, the Ponzi scheme. They were having 8, 9, 10 mortgages on a single property. Investors thought they were at 50% equity, and it turned out to be 9 and 10 of them per property. So when all the real estate, everything collapsed, that's how they caught Madoff too. They're sitting with 10 mortgages on a property that is only worth half of one.
Woo!
And it was only the senator's husband that did it.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then what they did was they cut a deal with a couple of guys in the Ponzi scheme, gave them a deal of the century, and nobody else went to jail. How about this? We were all the lawyers who had to be pulling the deeds and the titles each time they closed.
That's
They
right.
didn't know. What happened that you used the same appraiser on the same house 10 times? What happened with them?
That is... that falls under so many variations of fraud, I can't even count them.
Right, and the banking commission is in on it. And that was the weird thing. What happened was, with that Ponzi scheme, they screwed up. Because that banking commission is the one protecting the drug dealers, when they were doing a little Ponzi scheme on the side and got caught, they gave us the golden key to audit the banking commission. So we would have had the drug dealers by accident. That's how they had to take care of that so quickly, because they couldn't open the banking department because you get the drug dealers.
Hello, money laundering.
Right. I mean, that's the hardest thing. When you think of this, how do you catch these big drug dealers? Money.
It's all about the money. You follow the money trail.
Right. These guys figured it out. I mean, they rebuilt this. They owned the banks and they owned the commission. So they own the auditing piece.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bank, this primary bank deals in billions.
Oh.
Now, how is it dealing with billions and it's a little bank in New Hampshire?
Mm-hmm.
What, are we out of our minds? I mean, and that's what it is. It's the drug bank. And, you know, it's beautiful. You know who's now the head of this bank? It was the banking commissioner that protected the Ponzi scheme. That's his payoff. And they know they can trust him because they saved them before.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. The evil and more corrupt you are, the higher you go up the ladder.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about that.
Yeah. So I'm going to videotape this thing on Friday, so you guys will see this too. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I got a bad feeling on Friday. And I think that they moved it Friday to get me out of Washington.
Oh, by the way, we want to inform you something. The prosecutor in your case is a hearsay witness.
And also, too, you ask them, you never answer their questions. You ask the judge questions.
If he asks you a question, you answer it with a question.
Question.
Oh, I question him. I also tell them I'm putting them in jail. In fact, the last judge, I said, I'm gonna put you in jail and your boyfriend in jail too, which was the other lawyer.
Right.
I'm telling you, I know what you're saying with questions. They hate that with me, though.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you answer it with a question, don't if they ask you, do you understand? You say, I can't comprehend that.
Right. And the other thing is ask them where the affidavit of fact of indictment is.
Oh, exactly.
You know what I should do? When I videotape these, I'll have you guys look at it, and then you can fill me in what I should have done. And, I'll pick up fast.
Here's what we're getting out with the prosecutor, okay? He's a hearsay witness. They're not allowed to put hearsay testimony in the court because he doesn't have firsthand knowledge of anything. He wasn't there when anything happened. He's getting it from somebody else. And that somebody else got it from somebody else. So the cop got hearsay or may have taken the report, okay, so to speak, but was he there and saw the actual crime? So if the Supreme Court ruled that if you can be a crime victim, but if there's no corpus delicti, there's no crime. So where's the injured party?
Hey, Mike, I got a good movie for you to take a look at when you get a chance here the next.
Okay.
What is my injury?
Right.
Yeah.
But the movie you want to take a look at that would help you to see a little more things that you're seeing now is called Interstate 60.
Wow, I never heard of that. Interstate 60.
Interstate 60. It's on YouTube. Oh, yeah.
I'll look. Interstate 60.
It's 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 37 seconds. Yeah, that will, when you watch that, you're going to go, oh, shit. Because, see, the thing is, I've been through a lot of the court stuff. They've gone after me like crazy because I've even proven with the state agencies, like when ODF&W closed the fishing down in Oregon, and that was done in 2004, and I proved the assistant director of ODF&W at that time lied to the world, the Pacific Marine Fishery Councils, bluntly lied. And she flipped out on me going, because I'm reading her testimony that she turned into record there. She never even read the work that she had her employees do the writing for. So she goes off on me going, calling me a liar and all this stuff, and I can't believe, especially you, Ed, I've known you for a long time, and I can't believe you would do something like this. And I went to Patty Burke, and I said, Patty Burke, I said, do you have a copy of your writing, don't you, which you turn in the record here? She goes, of course I do. I said, would you please go to page 1? And she's looking at me, and I said, well, everybody in the Marine Fishery Council directors and everybody there, I mean, that's a big deal, the Marine Fishery Councils. And so I said, everybody look at this. And I said, here's what I said. And they're going, well, yeah. And I said, if you look at the autograph on this, isn't that Patty Burke's signature? Didn't she write it? And everybody looked at her and was like, oh, shit, you just got your hands caught in a cookie jar, girl. What did you do to us? So, yeah, that's the one thing I've done is I do the reading and the research on these things because when I go to these meetings, if I see something, I'm speaking out.
See, that's the big edge that they have. That's why, listen, I had an ad a couple of years ago for an attorney for $10 million, and I had it up there for 2 years. I never got a call. But, so in other words, what they do is they'll turn around and scare these guys.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then what they do is that you don't have a lawyer, you're inexperienced, and they turn around and take advantage of that.
Oh, yeah. When you go into court that you don't know the way that court is supposed to run. They know this because, see, like I said, with the flag, and that's the one thing you want to ask the judge, too, what jurisdiction is he going by? You have a right to know how you have to defend yourself and what jurisdiction.
If that court is flying a gold fringe flag, that's the reason why I asked you, or I told you to read Executive Order 108.
I'll make a point to look for that. You know what? I go in there with the camera and I tell the judges, I go, I'm going to make you not famous. I go, no, not famous, infamous. So I'm going to make you stars. I went into the FBI office with the camera. I'm telling you, 15 people jump under a desk. I go, the camera's not on. Relax. I'm going, what are you guys all scared of? I'm telling you, at least 15 people, and women were literally under their desk.
Mm-hmm.
I know that one. I walked in, went to go serve public servants for the House and Senate members, and every time they would run, when they see me, they would run because they didn't know what I was going to serve them.
Right.
And I did it for people in the system.
So it makes you, there's times where I feel like, oh, we've got a real good shot. You know why? Because I sense their fear. So that's, and how I catch them sometimes, it's the highest the wall they make, so they kind of give you clues. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, where to go after. So over the years, nobody knows me better than them. And I know them better than anybody. It's like two components. I wouldn't give up, and they're not going to turn themselves in. So we've got a kind of we've been going parallel for the few years. But we are making big headway, and that's why I think there's a move around the corner. What's kept me alive all this time is what's scaring me now.
Well, I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and they have a judge who is starting to ask questions why we have 7 million people in incarceration in this country.
Yeah. I mean, how many of them in drug? How many of them in there for pot? You know, or people who lose hope.
Conviction.
If I may.
That we never got a jury trial.
If I may.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? I was in a jury trial, and I was my own lawyer, and I was kicking the hell out of the New England Bar Association president. And it's on video called "You Be the Jury." You know what the judge did? It came out where they said, "Would you pay your bill?" And I said, on one bill that I didn't pay was a lawyer, the one who offered me $50 million. And I said, no, not that one because of $50 million. You know what he did? The judge turned around and goes, "All the jurors out."
Really?
They kicked all the jurors out and turned around, and I lost the case. They turned around and said, "All the jurors out," because I mentioned the fact that they were offering me, they're suing me, but they offered me $50 million.
Ooh.
At that point, all the jurors were removed. And how about that? That's Wiggins and Nori, and that's one of the pieces they're leveraging me on my house. And I turned around, they had a forged fee agreement. I had a lawyer that was working for me who wrote a confession, and they offered me $50 million, and they're suing me. And when I brought up the settlement, they kicked the jury out.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it on video. That's how corrupt that was.
Yeah, that gold fringe flag is martial law. So if the judge is a state or federal judge, what's his jurisdiction under martial law, which falls under military regulation?
Oh, and the other point is, if you're going to do anything with the Constitution in it, you make sure it's served and stamped by the clerk before you go into court.
Same with any motions.
You got to watch out for those clerks, too.
You want to get them served before you go to court, because in that way that's admissible as evidence. And in that way, you could go, well, I have exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that's been turned in.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Last 45 minutes of the show. It's up to you whether we should open the call lines or not.
I got a point there. I think here in about 5 minutes we'll do that. That is a good idea. I appreciate that. Because I think, there might be some people that might have some thoughts or something else to throw in here. So before we open it up, Dave, you have anything else to ask the gentleman?
I just posted on my Facebook site. I haven't got it on all of them yet, but the where you can go to get the government forms. Okay, so as soon as I can, I'll get it out to the rest of the websites.
Did you get that?
Thank you. I will look at that.
When you get that email to me, I'll make sure that gets to him tonight.
Yes, I will.
So as soon as that's emailed, I'll route it.
Okay. All right.
Because I got to go see if I have the other one, because I'm thinking about sending him our 38-page instrument on the flag we wrote.
Okay. I have an alphabetical listing of all government agencies, and each government agency has its own form, so you're going to have to figure out where you need to go to get the form, okay?
Okay.
The one for
Do you think it might be a court?
I got the one for Social Security, I got the one for the Department of Justice, and then I got the general agencies' contact information.
Okay.
You know, the other... actually, I have a guest that might be on, and I'm going to let her bring that one up. On identity.
Yeah, I'll go down and get that on over to you, Ed.
All right, you get that to me. I'll get that sent over to him. And then, but yeah, no, we'll keep in touch with you. You have our numbers.
Yep.
And you have my contact number. I personally know that one for a fact.
Yep.
You know, so like I said, you realize that, we do comprehend what you're going through. Not only that, we do comprehend the reality of the court systems. Actually, it terrifies them, because I've had people in court, and I've had judges in jury trials tell them they're terrified of me because they've been in law for 40 years and I know it better than them. I appreciate the compliment.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know what? If you fight back, they do get a little nervous. You know who's been helping and sharing and posting all my stuff too? Have you heard of the group Anonymous?
Oh, of course I know them. I know.
Okay.
I've heard of them. Let me just put it that way.
Well, they're helping me.
Well, they're not only helping you, they're helping us too, because of the things that what I've gone through. Because, like I said, I went through a point where, there was a couple of times I could have sold my soul to the company store, and you know exactly what I mean. And
Yep.
like I said, I was in a couple of interesting professions. I used to be a professional bodyguard for selected people. I actually worked in nightclubs that were very selected people that were primarily invited into the nightclub only. They were private nightclubs. So, and then, I did have a pretty damn good track record, and I could have went in a different direction, but I just couldn't step off selling my soul. And I think
That's
you know what I'm
one.
referring to.
Right, because there's no getting it back if you do.
Once you cross that threshold, you're done. And that's where people don't get it, and I can tell people, I'm a lawful bloodline American. And the bloodline means a lot, because the reason why they're trying to eliminate the bloodline in this country, because if there's no bloodline, that's how they can get rid of the Constitution, because if we have bloodline to the Constitution, they can't get rid of it. You know what I'm talking about with contract law.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't get that, but a lot of people do. And you want to know one thing that people call me crazy what I did. You know that Pope Francis is unofficial, right?
No, I didn't know that.
But did you ever hear about a guy filing on his soul through the Vatican in downtown London and through the Queen of England?
No.
I'm the man who filed on their souls, the Vatican and the popes.
And
I was actually in a seminary for 4 years to be a priest.
Well, I was going to be a Roman Catholic. Went through Roman Catholic upbringing and that. But have you ever heard or read the Treaty of 1213 with King John?
No.
You've heard of King John in the Bible, right?
Yes.
This is where it comes from.
Yep.
So, King John, you've heard of the Magna Carta, of the 1215 Magna Carta?
Yes.
All right, now you realize that is all from Britain, England. That has nothing to do with the United States and we the people. Okay? That's the one thing that when people want to bring that in, that's how they can win or lose. I mean, you could actually take the Bible in on court, and you can walk out having murder charges on you. By the way, there goes my computer again. For doing the Bible structure of how the Bible works. And they know it because they wear the black robes, because the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, runs your court systems. They get a percentage of every time anybody goes through that building, because the judges work for the Vatican. They're registered through the borough, what do they call that? The bar. The British Auxiliary Registrar to the King and Queen of England. That's what it really means. And I wouldn't go through that. I've had people try to get me going through certain things, and I just could not cross the threshold, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
You know, and then I had an opportunity where it was like, you know, I was going to lay back and, you know, take it easy for a while because I thought I had something going on in my life. And, you know, when I recalled the school board, I recalled the entire school board in my county over $30 million I could physically prove. Okay? Not only that, we had a guesstimate of $150 million. When we got the recall, I was a national news mockery throughout the West Coast here. Everybody was, you know, laughing at me. He ain't going to get the recall, all this stuff. Well, I ended up recalling the entire Lincoln County School Board at 61 to 67%, and including the banker who runs the county banks. And the worst part about it is after I did all this, I'm trying to get some other stuff, and then when things happen between me and a situation of life, next thing you know, he gets appointed as a county commissioner. He's still county commissioner today. So, you know, when this other stuff goes down, what I've filed and what I'm filing, they're all involved. I got district attorneys. I even got 2 state attorney generals involved in this, covering up the crime. You know, I mean, seriously, when I recalled the school board, everybody panicked because I actually filed the criminal charges on these things, and to date, they're still actually pending. So
how long was that for?
Huh?
How long does that go?
Well, they committed fraud, treason, and racketeering and extortion. That's internal.
Yeah.
Okay. You run into somebody's car or something like that, and you don't get collected in a certain period of time. Fraud is a lifelong thing. That's treason. That's piracy, and that is under federal law, even under the Queen of England, and that even goes under the 1812 British contract that it has with the country called China for the opium. So, I mean, it's like all these treaties, and people go, it's like the Northwest Treaty. Well, that was done between Mexico, the Corporation of the United States, and Canada, and they basically have been dropping that because they wanted to put in a 5-lane highway from Mexico to Canada here. We flipped out. There was no way that was going to happen.
If I may?
Go ahead, May. Oh, I did go a little further, didn't I? So we should open up the board.
Please consider the call-in lines.
Yeah, no problem. That part, hand up first.
And now I'm getting an IRS.gov 404 error page at the bottom of the link.
Oh, wow.
Where did that come from?
So anyhow, Dave, let's open up for our guests.
Okay.
All right, we're going to be opening up the call-in lines here. I'm going to ask you.
You have to bring our names up. Just call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let them go.
Yes. If you have a question or would like to join the board, please hit *61. Michelle, I'm going to bring you in automatically.
That was a very interesting conversation.
I told you would enjoy it, didn't I?
Yeah, I did. My heart goes out to you, Mike. Like you and Ed and David and I, we are all working hard to make headway as to what you've talked about on the show tonight. I just want you to know that I am addressing a claim, and I am going forward. This coming Wednesday, I'm actually addressing a treason claim. And I think the only way that we can bypass what you have brought forth on the call is we have to unite, and we have to start addressing claims through treason.
Michelle, not to be rude, but let him know, seeing that this guy knows what you've been through, give him a little highlight of what you've been through before you get into what you're doing so he can see what...
Sure. Like you, Mike, I'm a victim, and like you, I started to do a lot of research, and of course, that's what causes us to do the research and do what we're doing, and because of the fraud that we are noting, I actually lost a home through identity theft, And so I started to do research on identity theft, and to be honest with you, that is the solution. We have to claim identity theft on a lot of things that we're talking about in order to create a headway, because identity theft is a crime. Because what they're doing is they're forcing the hand, and what they want you to do is address your cases civilly and not criminally. As soon as you change the status from civil to criminal, changes the whole scenario on their part. And that's why they're forcing you or us, victims, to go civil and not criminal. And the only way you can convert it over into criminal is through identity theft. Now, your due process rights have been violated upon, and of course we all know that the court systems are bringing us into court civilly through identity theft. Because what they have done is they have violated Rule 62. Excuse me, not Rule 62, Title 62. Now, these are laws and codes that have already been passed through the board through Congress, and they all took a vote on it. Now, what we don't know, because we're so ignorant to the law, right? Because like they say, if you don't know the law, ignorance will get you nowhere. So I started to do my research, and I got them because I claimed that I didn't consent to the taking, and therefore I'm addressing identity theft. Let me tell you something, changed the whole scenario on their behavior. So that's what we have to do. We have to we have to address our cases and start trying to address it as identity theft or a form of identity theft, or somehow convert it over into a crime. Now, a lot of the police departments and the sheriff's departments, just like you said, their hands are tied too, because just like our hands are tied, their hands are tied. So they're threatened also. So this fraud is so deep and so sincere that not only are we facing it, the problems, bringing it forward, but those like in the police department, the sheriff's department, and of course other agencies, their hands are tied, because just like you and I and Ed and David and everybody else, they're threatened. So and their lives are threatened. In other words, you do as we say, or you either lose your job or da-da-da-da-da. So it comes down, well, if you have a family and you're trying to feed your family, what are you going to do? You're going to choose to back down and so you can feed your family. So that's how bad it is. The sheriff's departments, the police departments are corrupt because because they're put into a bad situation where those that are running that station, you know, the sergeant, the person who's above them, the lower employees, meaning the police department, you know, the regular men that go wear the uniform that claim they're trying to protect us, well, they're also threatened too. And so anyway, to make the long story short, I'm moving forward with a claim, and I'm claiming treason. And now this information is also in our handbooks, which I love, which is the Constitution's handbook. And it actually explains in detail how to address a treason claim. And so I started to fuddle through the amendments pertaining to the Constitution, and I was like, oh, there we go. I like that statement, and I ran with it. And, of course, that's under an Article 3, Section 3.
If I may, real quick, I hate to interrupt. I just got a notification that there's an emergency White House meeting over North Korea. This is breaking news as of 13.
Well, if we're going to go to war, we're going to feel it, so we don't have to worry about it.
And I yield the floor. I'm just getting it out there.
I mean, we got to be realistic. If they're going to start bombing, that means we're going to have to start arming. That means that we're going to have to protect our children and our food resources right now and right around us.
Yeah, that's sad. That is sad.
Oh, that's why I tell everybody, you make sure you have arms, because if you don't have arms, you're not going to eat because of the zombies.
Yeah.
You know, and that is real. And it's like the one thing, Mike, I do know what it's like to have cops pulling guns to your head. I do know what it's like to have that type of scenario that you've gone through. I have actually lived it myself. So I know.
And that's the sad part. See, that's when you're, and that's what I mean by dealing with a corrupt division. When you get a corrupt division, that's the shit that's what's gonna go on inside the jails and regarding the prison, just like what you were saying. And two, like you pointed out, Mike, about the drugs, you're absolutely correct. That is a big part of the problem. And in other words, it comes down to the money. In other words, they don't want to stop this crime. They don't want to stop the fraud because they're making money off of it. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, you hit it right on the nail. When you were talking about the drugs and how they're using, the system, they want to control us, and that's one way to do it. And of course, it's a shame how many Americans are falling for the trap, and then they wonder, well, geez, what's going on? And then we're being laughed at because we're the guinea pigs.
Mhm.
So that's what it comes down to. So it's all about educating the public and letting them know that you are falling for a trap, and you are the guinea pig. And do you really want to go that route? Do you want your family and your loved ones to be drug addicts? Because that's what they're doing on purpose.
Right. So anyhow, get back to what you were talking about originally on this, so he can get it
on the identity. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm doing is I have a 50-page documentary instrument that I prepared, and I'm giving it to the criminal prosecutor this coming Wednesday. And I touched on things like regarding laws I was looking up, including David and Ed. Anyway, I'm addressing the fraud regarding the IRS, the tax fraud. So you made me a little nervous because of that is one of the things I'm worried about, is are they going to come after me and target me because I'm blowing the whistle on the fraud
and the governor.
Absolutely, regarding our state senators and our governors. And I'm actually coming right out and proving it in writing. So this is going to be an actual documentation outline that these has to do. Now this has to do with laws that are, in other words, that they're violating. So these are already laws that have been established and that they voted on themselves and everything, and they're breaking those laws or not even following them. So I outlined all those laws and codes in my documentation, in my letter, because just like you were saying regarding the Attorney General was trying to block me from bringing my case forward because I'm actually breaking the ice on all the foreclosures. I actually can prove all the foreclosures were fraudulent, and I outline it right to a T, and I'm explaining it to them like they're dummies, right? I'm explaining it to them in detail how they're committing the fraud and how they're doing it, and etc. And I explain to them in the instrument pertaining to the note, the promissory note, and the instrument. In other words, I define the three of them pertaining to the bank's system, and of course how they're violating those laws. And I don't know if you're familiar with the promissory note and the note and the instrument. I don't know if you know the difference between the three. So I define that in my documentation, and so basically what I'm doing is I'm addressing, in other words, I'm going to let them know how to stop the fraud pertaining to the violation under the laws that they have broken, which falls under title, the penal code, which is, I forgot which title it was, I'm sorry. It's Title 7. So it's the Penal Code under Title 7, Chapter 31 of 31.01, which is part of 31.03, which falls under theft. And what I'm accusing them of is land theft.
No, you're not accusing. You're proving beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Well, that too. I'm proving.
Hey, everybody's worked on that one. No, that's proven fact. That's beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Well, that's true, Ed. You are correct. So I actually proved it, and so that is going forward this coming Wednesday. So I want you to know that besides what you're doing and what Ed is doing and David is doing, that is my instrument that I'm outlining this coming Wednesday. And I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for all the victims that lost their homes.
Yeah, I wonder, hang on a minute, Cheryl. Do we have somebody else that wanted to speak up there, guys?
Yeah, don't worry, it's my mom. I wanted to remind everybody that's on the line, *61 on your keypad to join the call and ask your question. While you still got the time, we've got 24 minutes left in the show. *61 if you want to get on and ask us a question or make a comment. I yield.
Yeah, and what Michelle, if he gives me permission, I have a link to him. You can send him some of your stuff so he can enjoy the reading.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. And you can give him my phone number, too.
I'll do that. I'll send that to him with your information to his information, and he can get back to you on this because, like I said, what you're going through and what you're bringing up, you're doing it on a grander scale. Does that make sense to you, Mike? Are you there?
Uh-oh.
What happened to Mike?
Has he been accidentally
I don't know. Let's see.
Hello?
Oh, there you are, Mike. Okay, we didn't know what happened to you or you fell asleep.
No, I've been here listening. I agree with, when you were talking about the police and so forth, you know something true? That's also in all other departments within the state. So the DRA, Banking Commission, Health and Human Services, they're all threatened by coming forwards and losing their jobs. Like you said, feeding your family.
We have the solution to that, Mike, and I've written this out for them. I have talked to the FBI, I have talked to the marshals, I have talked to the state police in several states, and the simple way that they can start doing it is through the training procedure to have their public officers and servitors, when they're out in the public, honoring their oath, not writing tickets to lawful Americans, figuring it out, because I put in a bill for the Oregon State Senate House and trying to get a bill in so we could get a traveler's card. So this way, if they want ID, okay, we got ID, but it's a traveler's card saying that we have the right, unless we damage somebody, hurt somebody, done something in that effect, we're not part of their system for their income, what they're generating income on the structure for the King and the Queen of England and the Vatican through this structure. And it's income because they're trying to claim the national debt that they have. All right, the national debt is the British government debt of World War I that they owe us, we the people. Okay, when they took the gold standard out, that was how they were to pay us back, so that way, all of a sudden, we were able to be reimbursed. We're supposed to sign for our water bill or electricity bill. This is part of House Resolution 192 and Public Law 73.10. And so we put all this stuff, outlined it in a writing where you read it, and it's like, oh my God, you can't decipher it. And we've posted it on the Senate floor, public records. It's been publicized in the media. Not only that, 2014, I publicized the one-page Constitution with the Queen of England's official stamp on it, stating that is the law of this land, period. And the Queen of England, October 16, 2016, right before the elections, because they were waiting for Hillary to win, because Hillary was supposed to sign this country over the Queen of England, and her comments out that came out from the Queen of England, October 16th, 2016, just a few months back, she was saying, oh, we'll be happy to put the British rule in the flag and take a structure of that for you. We'll take over the government for you. And March 3rd, 1997 is when William Jefferson Clinton signed the payee structure of Social Security over to the Queen of England. That is Executive Order 1666. Isn't that interesting? The year 1666.
Right.
So I mean, it's like stepping back and looking at the numbers of these executive orders, how they apply with the Vatican and religious history. And it is interesting when you look at it, because that's why our forefathers in the Constitution on the First Amendment said freedom of religion, because in that way we were not bounded to be under Christianity or any religion, because remember, the forefathers came from England. Okay, they knew if you didn't comply with that, you were either beheaded or punished in some severe way. You know what I'm talking about, that part of history, right?
Right.
Here, I thought that amendment was freedom from religion.
Well, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what technically it's supposed to be, freedom from religion. But see, they've got so many people believing in the Bible and their religion to fight us. It's like the Muslims. Thomas Jefferson was the first one who put the Muslim Act in place in this country, because the bloodiest war in history, far bloodier than the Civil War, was the war with the Muslims. What was that? The Barbarian War. And that was placed on this land. That's why the Marines and the Navy was formed, to stop the Muslims from coming into port. So there's a lot of history that people don't know what the real history is. They go by what they're indoctrinized to believe. And then when people tell them the real history, they go, oh, that can't be real. That can't be real. Are you sure that's real? And I've actually argued even with public officials, up at the Capitol on this. And then when I bring the evidence up, man, they just and I've had a few of them literally run from me in the hallways when here's a copy of it, and they start reading it, and they go, oh, you can just see the expression on their face. Oh, shit, you're right.
Of course.
Well, it comes down, Ed, to proving them wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that's the point that we're doing right now. But see, the simplest solution that we do have, and I've talked to many officials on this, is just start honoring their oath of office, because if they honor their oath of servitude, they cannot lose their budget so long as they honor the Constitution. Because under the budgetary structure, that's the only way they're allowed to be paid. And if they don't do that, the bankers, because the bank structure, could withdraw their employment contracts and the money for them. If they honor the Constitution, going back to the Bankruptcy Act, they cannot. And see, this is all written in congressional records. So I mean, everything that we're telling you, that me and Dave and Michelle are telling you, we've done the extensive research on this stuff. We've put it in our documentations when we served Judge Scalia, the separation of lawful and legal in the country, because he was supposed to make the deciding vote, to my comprehension of what was going around the news, and the reason why the way it was suggested that it needed to go back in that direction was he was supposed to make the deciding vote of charging Obama with treason and terrorist activities to this country. Okay, and then Obama meets with him 3 hours before he's found murdered.
Yeah.
Believe me, you don't just fall over and have a pillow on your face by accident.
I got a question. You touched on something, Mike, and I definitely want to get with you later. But you touched on something. Now I got a kind of weird, because I've been asking around. That's why I was asking Ed and David if they had received anything through the mail. But I actually got a personal card from the Presidential Advisory Board regarding Donald Trump. And I was asking around to find out, to see if anybody else got that same thing, and I didn't get one. Yeah, I'm finding out not very many people have received it. In fact, everybody that so far that I've asked, they have not heard. In other words, they didn't get anything either.
Yeah, you're the only one that's special right now, and it's
I don't know. Well, Mike touched on something, and it's making me nervous now because I'm thinking, oh shit, am I being targeted maybe?
Yeah, but that was to go to special ed, not you.
Huh?
I said that was special, not you. That's why they call me special ed.
Oh.
Don't. I'll tell you,
Mike.
targeting is real. I'm on something that's called the blacklist.
Mm-hmm.
And the IRS have targeted me. The FBI has targeted me. It is real. It is, so in other words, if you're touching it, you almost have to assume the worst.
Right.
And the IRS, nobody targets you more than they do.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there because they're the big piece of the pie. Well, they are the number one besides the bank because they're part of they work with the bank, and so absolutely. I mean, you're going right at the heart of the source pertaining to the corruption because they are the
adjutant general. The top guy, Jim Campus, who's the adjutant general of the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
I've got him on tape telling me I have a mole corruptly in my company.
Yeah.
I've got mail for 3 years going to an accountant I never met.
Right.
So in other words, it's indisputable. I'm not questioning, would be able to have a position in law to be able to beat them. But here's the point. They cheat.
It's kind of funny. I know they do. I know they do. And
they don't follow the law. So
no, they're not.
Right.
That's correct. They're not.
So it almost doesn't matter to them.
Well, the reason why it doesn't matter to them, Mike, is because, remember, if the people are ignorant to the law and they don't know the law, well, that's how they're winning. They're laughing at us, right? They're laughing at the people because it's like, they'll believe anything you tell them. Just throw it out there. I mean, let's face it. That's why the news media is so corrupt because, after all, they're told what to say. They're the puppets on the string.
Well, it's even worse than that, Michelle. Most of them don't write the news stories. They get it by a writer in the agencies themselves.
Well, are you ready for this? Do you know where else they get a lot of that from, Ed? Believe it or not, is off Facebook and off the internet.
I know that. No, I know that. They started doing that. But I know that, like, each and every county has a writer that writes for the newspaper itself.
Right.
Okay, because the newspapers get basically 40 to 60% of the newspaper's income comes from the public tax draw.
Right. Now, I've actually had them call me, and they were telling me that they were addressing treason, and that they were going after Obama and the group for setting up Trump and many others and of course there was actual videos even recorded, where they were making statements pertaining to where we stand as we the people regarding our Social Security, and of course they were talking about the medical aspect of that too, regarding Obama's medical care plan and all this and that. And I mean, and then of course they were talking about the foreclosures. Mm-hmm. Now I actually have a video that I saved on my computer because that's part of my evidence because they actually make a statement pertaining to the foreclosures in the video also. So they touched on many things. Let's face it, when they're above the law. And
no, they're
acting
above the law. They're acting by holding us hostage, and that's the point.
That's
and
right.
I would like to see the military wake up and do something that was suggested that they were bringing out, but but we'll see what happens. But it's just frustrating that people are being put in this position. It's like these guys. Look at what happened into the SEALs, the Black team.
I think when
falls out of the air.
I think, Ed, when we start putting the laws on paper and we start putting an instrument together, outlining the facts, the true facts, and we do it in a nice way, of course, but we're pointing out the facts.
Well, we've been doing.
How they're violent. Oh, I know we have, but I think what we have to do is we have to start. In other words, we have to start making it more public. And I think with your recordings, Mike, like you're doing, is awesome. And I think what we need to do is, like when I get done with my instrument, I'll give you my instrument. You can record it, and then that goes around. See, that's how I think we're going to get them, because when we start showing the public the actual laws themselves, and we start citing those laws and codes that they're violating in our paperwork, see, that's where we're going to get them. Well,
now, if you read our stuff, Mike, we wrote it, but how come I'm getting double feedback now?
Oh, I like that feature of my microphone. I just want to let you know, we got 9 minutes left in the show. Go ahead.
Okay, we got 8 minutes. But anyhow, you know, if you want to pass for instruments, because see, we're trying to come up with a few things, you know, trying to keep us going afloat. You know, we're not asking for money, but like we need an 800 number and a few other things to keep us afloat, you know, for a little bit, if that makes sense. Because
I can help share some of your stuff too, because I have I have a couple million people watching the videos. So, and Anonymous is doing that with me too, and I think they have 36 million worldwide.
Right, and once we put the structure out, what the Constitution really is, because with me and Dave and Michelle, mainly me and Dave, really wrote a lot of stuff on the Constitution and the banking structure and stuff, and Michelle's got a couple really good pieces on the banking structure. All right, now we've gone all the way back to the actual history of this country in 1772 to 1774. We've got the congressional records, and we put all this stuff in our writings with the actual historical records in it, with the dates, with the numbers, with the numbers that they came from in the federal books, and the numbers that were filed in the House and Senate. So we have them right to the structure of where it came from. Does that make logical sense?
Yeah.
So they can't sit there and try to argue this didn't come from the real records, because it came right from the real records. It's like Dave says, they wrote it, we're just writing it, you know.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
Well,
so,
I'll tell you what.
So anyhow, Michelle, I'm going to let Dave close because we're at 4 minutes here.
Sure, no problem. I just wanted to bring something. That's why they removed the 13th Amendment.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We'll get you that because we have the 13th Amendment, too. The state of New Hampshire was the one who publicly did hearing on it. I have the hour-and-a-half video on it. Clearly states the 13th Amendment was ratified with the 14th Amendment, and it is real. The 14th Amendment separated citizens, that's immigration, from lawful bloodline Americans, and we actually have the congressional records on that, and the federal laws, and the Supreme Court decisions that made them. So, we've done all this extensive research with it beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's like with our Facebook sites and stuff, with me and Dave have on our Facebook sites. We've got them up there on files and stuff.
So you know what I thought too, in putting state in corruption, I always wanted to pool talents, because each of us brings something different to the table, but as a group you become rounded. You know what I'm saying? That's why even in a state of corruption and trying to put one in each state is to have people in it that bring something, whether it's something legal, whether it's paralegal, or whether it's social media, or whatever talent they may have. And that's what I've been trying to do now.
Right.
Well, I think, Mike, that's...
The one thing here, if we get them to start honoring their oath and start making their amends, starting, in a small pattern that feathers out. Do you get where I'm coming from? We got our plans opened up. We got our food resources doubled and tripled by the state's Fish and Wildlife, the way their contracts actually read. And so we're not going to jail for feeding ourselves, and those who come here have to pay like they're supposed to, like when you go to any other country. If we get that information out and it becomes final and we start getting it so it starts spreading out that way, all right, we can stop civil war, we can stop all this, and then we have the bankers that they're going to be forced into going through under 192. They can still get their money on the other side, but they can't sit rape, robbing, pillaging this country and bleeding it from the inside out. They've been doing that for the last 60 years.
What you will find basically under the IRS swindle is that those 60 rulings of the United States Supreme Court relating to income, the IRS ignore the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And therefore, That is basically
treason.
the fraud scheme by which they are operating.
Mm-hmm.
See, that David just hit, Mike, David just touched on a very, very crucial point. And I think that when I share my instrument, by the time I get done with this instrument, and I share this instrument with David and Ed and you take it and you run with it. See, I think I'm going to be the one that's going to, because like I said, I'm addressing this as treason. Now remember, this is going to the criminal prosecutor, but see, remember, we can also.
But can you trust the criminal prosecutor?
Well,
because I haven't found one yet.
The whole point that we got them in a position, that's why I started the recall on the governor. I filed a recall on the governor, and we could talk about that privately here in the next 24 hours, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what they're freaking out about, because the governor was born in Spain. And the Oregon State Constitution is like the federal Constitution. You have to be born in 48 states to be legal to run, and not only that, you have to be lawful under naturalization law. Natural law means 100 years or more. And that's the point that people don't get. It's 5 generations or more, and that's what the Supreme Court and the Constitution clearly states. When they started writing all this structure in 1776 and 1778, the 1779 final states the laws dealing with the separation of lawful and legal. That's why they finally did the 14th Amendment after the Civil War. And everybody goes, the 14th Amendment is crap, it doesn't do nothing. And if you're a citizen, you don't have rights. Well, that's true. You're an immigrant if people actually read for what it says compared to what people want to interpret it as.
And that's where people are screwing up. They call themselves sovereign citizens. No, you're not. You're a sovereign.
Or your bloodline. Yeah. A citizen is a British subject. And type in British citizen. Type in American citizen. It'll come up as a British subject.
People need to comprehend the terminology they're using and why they're using it.
They're going by all these other people that are
better stay out of it.
Right, and they're going by all these other people writing stuff up on sovereign citizens or writing up that you're a citizen and that. When you go to court, you have to know if you're lawful and legal. First off, you have to know the jurisdiction of the court, if they have the rights to even have you in that court. So anyhow, say your closing. We're going to go over just a couple of minutes over, but you say your closing, I'll say that, and then I'm going to give Mike the final word.
Okay, well, we've discussed a lot of things tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's available on YouTube for your listening enjoyment if you wish to review it. And other than take any more time, I will say good night. And join us again next week, and I'm sure we're going to have some more goodies for you. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. To clarify, we are not attorneys. None of us are attorneys or lawyers. 1957 Congressional Record says lawyers are fraud. That's by the Congressional Record, which I do post in our letter that goes out all the time. So people can do the research. We have the numbers right there. It is real. I'm very thankful to have people listening that are going to listen later, and we appreciate you joining us, and may the Great Spirit walk with you, and Mother Earth feed you and bring you life. And so without life, without Father and Mother, we don't have life. Sorry, I don't go about the other side of things, and people know the way I feel about that, but... anyhow, just may the Great Spirit walk with you, Mother Earth feed you, and I'm passing the last word to Mike, so you got the last couple of minutes, Mike.
I'd like to thank everybody from listening to my situation, and I would ask them to look at some of these videos on stateofcorruption.org on Facebook. They can go through a history. I have over 400 videos. You'll see the path that I've traveled, the corruption that I've exposed, and I'm asking people at this point in time to have courage, and that we've got to do this together. If it's we the people, it's now's the time. I mean, I believe that it is the perfect storm I believe that people are starting to realize that there's that depth of corruption. I think even Trump getting elected told us that there's something going on here. So show courage, and we've got to act now. Please go to stateofcorruption.org. And if you know congressmen, you know representatives, you know the people in the DEA, please call them and ask them to investigate my evidence. And I would like them to come on again and share, and maybe we can help one another and share evidence and share methods. And I'd like to share the things that I've learned and to help people. But thank you very much tonight, and I was glad to meet each and every one of you.
This is Toasted. It's been a pleasure to have you on our show. Any final thoughts out there? Anyone?
Thanks, Mike, for your effort, and keep it up, and we will support you. Good night.
And we'll keep in touch, and we'll keep trying to help, because, I think that we can help one another. I
do, too.
Well, just remember, next Monday, we plan on having you here after your court case, because we want to be able to see and hear.
Yeah, I hope I'm there Monday to tell you. Let's try to do that. But
you'll be here because, like I said, some of the public servants and some of the law enforcement are slowly comprehending because what's going on with their budgets, because the state's going after certain budgets to cut them out and stuff like this. And so if they honor their oath of servitude, they cannot lose their budget. They cannot be cut. And they have to honor their oath and prove it, and in that way, whatever's on the budget list at that point cannot be defunded. They might not get an increase, for a few years or whatever, but at least they have the basics sealed. And, I just got some knowledge of this, spending my time where I was at, and I got blessed to witness a lot of things how it works. So if they honor their oath, that's what's going to save them. They start making amends to the communities. Certain things you can't replace or do, but if you make your amends, people just got to appreciate it,
Yep.
So I'll let the guys pick up, and then we're done.
All right.
Well,
this is Toasted with Revolution News and Information. It is 4/24/2017. I have to restream this later because I had so many interruptions during the stream, and I apologize for the inconvenience about that. Blue screen of death, and they reached into my computer and shut off my streaming browser. So, with that, this is Toasted, Revolution News and Information, signing off. Peace.
Thank you.